All right, here we are, folks. Let me also. Give me 1 second. Sorry. Get rid of the stuff here. All right, cool. Hello,
Okay.
Wyatt.
Hi, how are you?
I am well. How are you on this fine Monday afternoon?
Evening.
Evening? Sure, we'll call it evening. Maybe not evening for all of our viewers around the world.
Oh yeah, all these weird. Okay, well, welcome everybody to episode 2, real episode 2 of the Under the Moon podcast. I am Wyatt Hendrix, and I am joined by Aaron Spencer, the cheesemate. He is from Chicago, Maine. I am from Bangor, Maine. You can find us through our website, underthemoonpodcast.com, or Google sites.underthemoonpodcast.com. Probably should get a real domain soon. Or our YouTube channel, which is linked in the Twitch chat and is Under the Moon Podcast. We will be posting full episodes there soon after. And I believe we're live streaming on YouTube. Is that?
We are currently live on YouTube as well, yeah.
We're live on YouTube as well. We will also be setting up Spotify at some point. Today we are discussing a topic that a couple people asked about, a couple people suggested might be a good topic, and that is chess improvement. So I'm pretty excited for this, but Aaron actually has a game recommendation he's going to do to start us off.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Before we dive into the boring chess stuff, last week I did a book recommendation. I think it'd be maybe a nice thing if we were flexible with the recommendations. I didn't do a lot of reading this week, but I played a new game called Grounded, where it's basically Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, right? You're in the backyard, you are shrunk down to the size of very small insects, and you're competing against insects to try and craft a way to make yourself big again and avoid dying in the process. If anybody's played a game like Subnautica, it's very similar, where you have the kind of feeling of terror, where you're like surrounded by these insects that are actually massive and can kill you very easily, and you have to craft a way to survive. I don't know. I've put probably 10 hours into this the last week or so, and it's very enjoyable, very worth the money for anybody who's interested. It's called Grounded for anybody who's a gamer out there.
Okay.
And that's my brief little review there.
That's good. How'd you discover this game, actually?
Great question. I watch a Twitch streamer called Barbarous King. He's like one of the very few non-chess streamers that I watch.
Okay.
I watch him almost exclusively for game recommendations, because he finds these games like before anybody else, and like I saw him playing it. It looked very fun, so I played it. And I think that's how a lot of people can like get their game recommendations these days, is they watch like content from big streamers.
Yeah, or little streamers, I guess.
Or little ones, yeah, that's true too.
I had like 20 games last time. So, have you played any of those since then? Kind of was wondering. I didn't do too. I obviously played a bunch of Magic and chess and stuff, but I didn't play too many of those.
I played some Celeste on stream a little bit. I played played some of the games off stream a little bit. Definitely played some Played Up. Got the grind on.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will slide into our main topic of discussion for today, and that is on chess improvement. So I think we're going to just start off with some general advice, and then we're going to kind of move into what we think is overrated advice or just downright poor advice. And depending on kind of how the time goes, we might start looking at a couple of real chess positions and just kind of outline our thought process if we have the time to do that.
Yeah. We are also fielding questions, by the way, if anybody has wants to jump in with any like burning questions, feel free to as well.
Also, we should add a disclaimer. We're only about 2,000, 2,100 USCF. We're not super grandmasters or anything like that. We're also not players who are super serious about chess right now. We're people who've taken it seriously at certain points in our life, and I still take it somewhat seriously, I guess. But this isn't like some super serious chess podcast where we're like both trying to be IMs or something next year. Like that's not why we're doing this. This is really mostly focused on you guys, and a lot of you guys who are asking about this tend to be beginner level players. So most of it is geared towards you folks. This is not how to be a grandmaster tutorial. This is for amateurs.
Yeah.
So the first thing you wanted to talk about was analyzing your own games.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer. So this is the this boils down to the Botvinnik system of play, which is Botvinnik had this opinion really back in the 40s and 50s, like is when he started talking heavily about it, where he strongly encouraged people to play fewer tournaments, to analyze their games deeply, and to publish the analysis. The publishing of analysis these days is not really the same. This approach that he was taking was pre-computer by a lot. These days, you can substitute the publishing analysis and getting feedback kind of by reviewing your games with stronger players or with engines. But the primary thing that got me to near master level, like back in the day, was self-analyzing games. Like I would play classical games, and I was not allowed to play another tournament until I spent 5 to 10 hours analyzing every single game, which was an intense regimen. Anybody who's done game analysis knows that it can be hell spending 5 or 10 hours on a game, like deeply analyzing by yourself.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever done that at any point, actually, to that level with the 5 to 10 hours. But I have done a bit of analysis on my own games, just not to that level. I do remember when we did the Morin Invitational games, we probably approached that for some of those games, although those are mostly group sessions. And it's a lot. Like you really exhaust like all the possibilities, and that definitely helps out. I do have a funny story related to that. I remember Brian Hurst was telling me he called you one time. I'm not sure why he called you, just to ask if you were going to a tournament or just say what's up. And you picked up the phone and he said, "What are you doing right now?" And you said, "Oh, I'm analyzing a chess game from my recent tournament." And then Brian said, "Oh, how long have you been doing that?" And you said, "About 3.5 hours." This was during 2014 when you were super good, and you weren't even done yet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It would take me a very long time.
And Brian was just like, "What in the hell?"
Yeah.
But that's it's just important to analyze your own stuff, right? Because you're learning about what's coming up in your games, right? It's a lot more practical, the analysis. It's really important.
Yeah.
You got to identify where you're making mistakes, because if you're not focusing on yourself and your thought process,
yeah, like you can start to recognize like the types of patterns of mistakes that you make, but also there's just some. It's much easier to take the positions at like a deep personal focused level, I think, when you actually play the game, right? When you're reading a book, maybe everything's a little bit impersonal. Maybe it's easier to gloss over some variations accidentally. Whereas when you're analyzing your own games too, I felt that it was very easy to, not easy, but I was less likely to stray over some variations that maybe should be looked at.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Very cool. Yeah, like I started doing a little bit more of this a few years back, and there are some games I think I probably still haven't even looked at with a computer, just because I just never had any interest to do that, and then some that I would do only after quite a bit of by hand analysis. And I really think that once you finish a game and you plug it into a computer, like 70% of your learning potential from that game is just out the window. I mean,
I agree entirely. Yeah.
you can look at stuff with a computer and try and come up with kind of general types of conclusions, but it's very hard because even if you see what you're missing, you're not actually doing the analyzing, which actually is helping to train your brain, training your intuition, training your analytical ability. So yeah, you may be identifying weak spots in your game, but they're probably not super practical because it's from a computer perspective, right? And B, you're really missing out on a lot of the actual exercise work. And I know people who check things with computers and just think that, oh, I had this drawn ending, when their real mistake might have been a lot earlier on, going into like a really bad ending that is technically still a draw. So I think analyzing with computers sometimes gets people to focus on the wrong thing. And I know that that's a lot of people talk about that all the time, and it's kind of a pretty cliche argument, but it's very, very true.
Something I'm probably going to harp on multiple times this segment is that another big thing that you lose probably the biggest thing to my mind that you lose when you analyze with the computer is you lose the effort.
Yeah.
I think more important almost than anything, like you can do the wrong thing and work very hard at it and still get a lot of results, as opposed to when you do something that's easy, like memorizing like a computer eval or memorizing an opening, you aren't doing the hard analytical work. You're just copying somebody else's work. In this case, the machine.
Yeah.
And the work is what improves you.
Yeah. That's absolutely true.
So I'm actually kind of curious about this, Wyatt, because you play a lot of correspondence chess, or at least you have played a lot of correspondence chess. Do you find that you approach your analysis of correspondence games to be like similar to like your post-mortem analysis games? Is that like similar or is it different?
Well, first of all, I'm very lazy with my correspondence. I don't do what I should be doing. Well, with correspondence, when you spend a lot of time, it is about one singular decision. Whereas when you're analyzing post-mortem, you're definitely focusing on like a lot of the critical points more, right? So correspondence, if you're doing correspondence correctly, you would be spending a lot more time over the whole entire game. And it is kind of going back to what you mentioned, like you get the effort value out of it a lot. Like you're spending time analyzing, right? You're getting better from that, and you also are kind of able to compare with your opponent's analysis and stuff too, based on the moves that are played. What you're not getting is the kind of some of the elements of things like calculation. Like you're never really going to work on things like that as much. I mean, depends on how you're analyzing. Like if you are trying to sit there and really do it in your head or something like that, okay, that's fine. But most of the time when you're analyzing by hand on a board, you're not really doing as much for your visualization or calculation or anything like that, and you're not noticing those errors, right? Like when I analyze over the board games, for example, like I may notice I've made some calculation errors. That's not really something that's applying to correspondence because I'm not reviewing a game I've played. So it's a little bit less of a focus on the thought process and more of a focus on just the position, I guess. So it's kind of pros and cons.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, yeah. So in correspondence, I would say I kind of move the pieces. I would say if I'm analyzing a correspondence game, if I'm actually really, I mean, sometimes I'm lazy and I just go on chess.com and look for 4 minutes and just kind of make a move. But if I am actually trying to play a good correspondence game, yeah, I'm trying to move the pieces around. That's not actually helpful for your chess improvement, but it is helpful for making better correspondence moves. So that's kind of that trade-off there.
The first part of the question that you asked is, do you set up pieces on a real board? That's an interesting question. Have you ever done that for a correspondence game?
I tend to do it on a real board. I think if I move the pieces around.
That's cool. I know. I visited Roger Morin's house like many times, and he frequently had like 5 or 6 chessboards all at once with like different positions from different correspondence games that he had going. which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, now he used to play a lot on email and stuff, right?
He did
So
email and like even snail mail correspondence. Like he did old school.
that was one where you don't want to have to like read the email and like have to play through it all. So some people did keep things set up like that just for keeping track of the games. It just was easier.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Actually, I played I think one email tournament and it was just hell because it was hard to keep track of and just stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine. Like if you really just power through it, but I thought it was more boring than having the chess.com things. Although it did force me to think about the games a little more because I couldn't just look at the board like on chess.com and just be lazy.
Yeah, those are the glory days of correspondence chess, like before chess.com and like digital boards.
Yeah, before engines were like there was no cheating or something.
This is true too, yeah. Well, I shouldn't say no cheating. There was probably still you have your friends over and you all analyze the game together.
But like, yeah.
Yeah, it is a different kind of ball game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I think it definitely has value, correspondence. It's been helpful for me at various points. I think it just really is about what you said, like it's just like the effort involved more than it is like actually like playing correspondence is super valuable. You also wanted to talk a bit about openings and what not to do.
Yeah, sure. So this is something that I'm a pretty staunch advocate of is telling people that studying openings below master level is not going to improve your chess. It's just kind of the way it is. And when I say that, I don't mean that it's useless to have some kind of opening knowledge. What I mean is that it's useless to build like some kind of deep repertoire with a lot of memorization. Basically, the chessable approach I think is pretty useless for people below master level, because there's no effort that's being spent on thinking and calculating. It's all memorization, which is not a skill that you're going to be using over the board. And you obviously will be out of book at some point in your life. Like at some point, the game is going to be out of book for you. It kind of is a difficult concept to explain to a lot of people, because when you see grandmaster interviews and stuff like this, all of what they talk about is the opening, because that's where they spend all of their study time, because they're already absurdly strong. But for the rest of us, it makes more sense to spend less time. And like where I get most of my opening knowledge, or at least I used to, wasn't through studying opening books. It was through analyzing my games. And after my postmortem, I would go over with a database, right, and see like where I deviated from theory. And like you very slowly build an opening repertoire that way, but you do it with a deeper sense of understanding, I think.
That makes a lot of sense.
I don't know. It's one of those things that really gets to me, because like on one hand, I don't want to discourage people from studying openings if like they have a fun time doing it, but if they're actively trying to improve, it's worth understanding that it's the absolute worst way to spend your study time. I think, I could be, people will have differing opinions on this, of course, but I think this is one that's parroted a lot, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it definitely it depends a lot, and I think you're generally right. I think we should preface this. I don't think this means never study openings ever, or not have like an opening repertoire or anything like that. It just means that this is not how you're becoming a better player, really, of the game. You may improve your equity and get better results by having a well-memorized opening repertoire. but you're not really becoming a much better player. Now, I will say, knowing things like opening structures, like pawn structures and stuff like that, is important. It is very important because that's kind of middle game study as well, right? Is kind of what that is. So knowing, in the Benoni structure, you do this. Well, that's not really an opening. That's a middle game plan, and so that's something that I think we should preface. But that's not what we mean. We don't mean don't study middle game things that happen to be classified by the opening they're in. It just means that buying a $200 semi-Slav course on Chessable and just rocketing through it is a little crazy for somebody who's struggling to cross 1600 or something.
This is true, and this is a good point too. I actually I had a book many years ago it was called Mastering the King's Indian or something like this. It was written in the 90s, I think. It was so it didn't do it by variation, did it by structure, right? It organized like you see a lot of modern chess books that have like this tree of variations, or like they have like a page that's just like analysis filled with parentheses and stuff. This didn't have that. They had like critical positions with pawn structure chains, and a lot of times it would like actually omit pieces and just do the pawn structure. And like it was called Mastering the King's Indian, but really it was a middle game book on the structures that you get in these kinds of opening complexes.
Yeah. That's really cool. Who wrote that?
Great question. Here, I can actually look this up real quick. Who is this? This was Robert Bellin and Pietro Ponzetto.
Never heard of these people.
Yeah, just some random masters. Yeah.
That's cool. That's awesome. And speaking of what I mentioned about money and spending $200, we will later on get to a segment where we're specifically talking about how to spend money in chess and what not to do. But before that, we want to talk about a couple of like overrated quotes that really irked you or me. Specifically irked you.
Yeah, I don't know. You were kind of quiet through the quotes, but I had some, some annoyances.
One of them is Lasker says the knights should be developed before both of the bishops.
Weird. Just a weird, like old, like that's a kind of an old timey expression that you would tell to beginners, right? The concept in general is that like the best square for the knight is f3 and c3, or f6 and c6 for black, but the bishop might want to go to different squares. But that's such a weird thing to be dogmatic about. Like it's more important to develop your pieces harmoniously than to like follow a rule. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because I had heard this like a year and a half ago or something, and I'd like never really heard of it before. I just have never followed that ever. Like I don't know. I mean, the way it ends up happening, like often they do, right? Like the knights do come out first, but I don't think that it's like a rule that needs to be. Oh, that's just bizarre.
Yeah, it's like so a more generalized rule is like play the most flexible move if you're going to play if you're going to play two different moves at some point, play the one that's more flexible. And I think that's a very specific application of the general concept, but like the way it's presented as like a rule unto itself is kind of bizarre.
Yeah. So your modification of that quote would be play the most flexible.
Yeah, that's
for both of you.
That's generally what I think that's
which I guess is a totally different quote. There's no way to fix that quote. I feel like Lasker was just.
Lasker just he was just very bad at chess. Is kind of the crux of the issue.
So here's one, and this one I know irks you. We've even had a stream where this came up in discussion, and it got interesting. And it is Trash has a quote, "No one has ever won a game by resigning."
Oh, so technically, this is not inaccurate. That doesn't mean you should never resign. Um,
Yeah, people take this quote and they run with it. They really do.
people take this to the extreme. And in an online game, like you've got less than a minute on the clock, and you don't want to resign because you're trying for a flag, go for it. I don't care. If you are playing a classical over the board game and you're down a queen and a rook for you're playing this for like hours, like it's insane. Like you're wasting your time, you're wasting everybody's time.
Yeah.
And it's your time to waste, sure, but there's a level of disrespect where like you're saying that you're a master level player or class A level player or whatever it is can't like close out a game with an extra queen,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that's
there are players in Maine that we play that will play this way.
yeah, it's annoying.
It's
really, it's kind of brutal, and it wastes time to analyze after. That's why how this kind of ties into chess improvement and stuff like this. It's just spending a lot of time thinking about and focusing on positions that are really past all the critical moments of the game is not what you want to be doing, right? You need to just be able to be like, all right, the game is over, it's done. This is not where you need to be spending your time thinking and analyzing, and right, you need to just be done with the game. You need to focus on what happened before.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Thank you. And this ties into something I see a lot in main tournament scenes where I'm looking at kids analyzing with a coach, and they're analyzing positions where someone's down a rook already, but they've blown through the opening or middle game or whatever where all these mistakes happened. It's just bizarre to me to watch them do this. Or somebody's like couldn't find out what they wrote on their notation sheet, but they're down a queen on the board. I'm like, who cares? You can throw away the rest of the notation sheet. You're sitting here spending 5 minutes trying to figure out if that's an F or an E, and you're down a queen in the position on the table. Like, it's over. The game is over. And you should have resigned. The book Ace Waiton Modern Chess Opening Theory. First part is about playing the concrete position rather than dogma. Which you guys ever like that book? I have heard of a couple books that Swayton wrote. Swayton wrote something that I think translates loosely to Soviet like modern middle game technique or something like this. What was it called? Yeah, I can't remember what it was called. He wrote a big book on that because he was a known trainer.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
I'm not sure. I know. Obviously the concept is correct here, right? Where dogmatism is almost always a bad idea in chess. But
and avoiding dogmatism also doesn't mean you have to throw out all principles. Like, general principles will help you a lot. They make things easier. They're easy to digest. You get a lot out of them. It just means that trying to think in such a simple way is just, it's just a bit stupid, really.
This is true, yeah. So I would say when I was at my peak, my style was mostly heavily positional, very grindy. And I would rely heavily on like these principles, but I would grind out positions that were barely better, but I would love to grind, and I relied heavily on stuff like you put your pawns on opposite colors of your bishop, like these general principles. But at the end of the day, calculation trumps general rules every single time.
It does, yeah. I mean,
it's just a math equation. That's what chess is.
It's why whenever people see young players do well and they're shocked or something like that, I'm just so puzzled because people aren't understanding that the aspects of chess. I just almost knocked my computer off my table. The aspects of chess that matter a lot aren't necessarily the knowledge based aspects, right? A lot of it is things like the calculation and all the concrete stuff, and looking at the position in front of you instead of having a bunch of positional rules memorized, right? And it's really hard to overstress how important this is because so many people get this wrong, specifically people who start learning as adults. They get this really wrong, right? I mean, amateurs get this wrong, but people who start as adults really don't get this sometimes because they're trying to approach it like they approach a lot of other things where it's like knowledge, right? Like if I want to learn code, you learn code, right? Like chess is not, it's not like you just learn chess and it's just like, it's about your thought process and about concrete decision making. It's not something you're just like accumulating knowledge and knowing all these positional principles and it's just not like that. And that's something we're going to continue to hash over and over again, I think, throughout this segment. And that's why, like, whenever I see people who are struggling to improve, like practice a lot and don't get better, I say, well, if you're not focusing on your thought process, you're wasting your time, right? Because it's not about anything else. It's about your decision making. And that means that a lot of these rules just don't have a lot of, because it doesn't lead to good decision making. It leads to stupid decision making based on one sentence quotes, which is not where you want. Yeah, that's definitely a good suggestion there with modern chess opening theory, using concrete ideas. The other book, I did find the other book that Sweeten wrote. It was Soviet Chess Strategy. I guess it was written way back.
Oh, I've heard of that one. I didn't know Sweeten wrote that, but I've heard of that one.
So there's Soviet Middle Game Technique you might have heard of.
Oh, that's the one I heard of. You're right. You're right.
Peter Romanovsky.
Yeah.
That one's an absolute classic. I think that's like one of the books I think you should absolutely read. It gets a little abstract at points because it talks about kind of the theory of decision making, and sometimes the way he talks about it, it's like, is this even a chess game? But because it just kind of gets a little abstract. But it's a very good book, Soviet Middle Game Technique by Romanovsky.
Yeah. I want to just highlight something that Wyatt said here, like where he was saying that chess is not like the accumulation of more knowledge. It's a skill. It's 100% not a knowledge gain, right? This is not about learning. Like, this isn't about reading more books and improving your vocabulary. This is about you can learn all the words like in the world that you want, but writing like a well-written piece, like an article, is like a specific skill. It's the same concept, right? Like accumulating more ideas, however true they are, is not going to help you as much as learning to think better. It's you're changing your thought process. You're honing your skills. You're not gaining knowledge. It's sort of like, if you're weightlifting, right? You don't read a bunch of books about weightlifting to get stronger. You lift a bunch of weights.
Yeah.
And like it's kind of mind-blowing how like some people think it's different because it's a mind-based thing, but it's not different. You have to actually practice at the action that you're doing to get better at that action.
And also, leading into some of our next things, when we say practice, that does not just mean going out and playing, right? It means analyzing. It means looking at positions. And now, obviously, we say you don't want to read too many like positional rules and stuff like that. That's not to say that books don't have value, right? But you just want to make sure that you're not getting too lost in mostly theoretical stuff that kind of just doesn't matter. You want to be looking at books that are asking you to do active thinking, active exercises, and working on your thought process.
I have right behind me, I'm not sure if you guys can see this, the bookcase on the left, the right, so the right for you guys is all chess books. I've read
trophies on it, or the one without
the one, no, this one, all chess books.
Finger still doesn't show at all.
Well, whatever. One of the books is all chess books. It doesn't matter which one. I've got about 150 chess books in this house. I've read maybe 4 of them cover to cover, and I've maybe skimmed a couple of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like the and the ones that I've read are mostly like game collections, right? And it's not like where the value isn't being presented words from the author. It's like getting a chance to analyze these games, which I could do with the database. Like, yeah, like reading like a million books isn't going to help. Reading like a couple of books and really taking your time with them is going to help.
Yeah. So we have another quote that you also hate very, very much. Chess is 99% tactics.
Yeah, I don't like this one. I don't like this one for a couple of reasons, right? Like at some like deep theoretical cosmic level, you could argue that chess is 100% tactics because it's just like a computer dump like of like ultimately chess is like just some like tree of solutions, but for a human being, chess is much less than that, right? Chess is I would even say something like 70 to 75% tactics, maybe. I don't know. Obviously tactics are super important, but more than half of the moves that you make have nothing to do with tactical motifs, right? More than half of the moves you make are like finding out how to organize your pieces and pawns in a coherent way.
Yeah. And so obviously, like when we talked a lot about like concrete decision making earlier, we didn't just mean tactics or calculation either, right? We did mean a lot of these positional strategical concepts do matter a ton. I will say, I think that the quote sometimes, when it's used correctly, makes sense, right? You can't do anything without having a good tactical basis, right? You can't positionally outplay your opponent and then just never have a tactic or anything like that. Like at the end of the day, there's gonna be a critical point where it all kind of comes together, and you have to mate, or you have to calculate the ending, or you have to, do something, or you know what I mean.
I do, and there's also like this marriage of tactics and positional play that happens. Like if you look at especially Karpov's games, like is my favorite example of this. Like he'll very often use tactical motifs to achieve a positional advantage without winning material. Where like maybe like the tactics are like the instrument to achieve the goal, but the positional concepts like provide the goal.
Yep.
So it's like saying like the like sculpting is 99% chisel, right? Like you can't sculpt without a chisel, but like I'm kind of the one like figuring out what's going on here, the tactics are the tools.
We have one more overrated quote, and that is Nigel Short said, "Modern chess is too concerned with things like pawn structure. Checkmate ends the game." Now, knowing Nigel, I feel like this might have been tongue in cheek, but people took this quote and went a little too far.
I'm assuming 100% that you're correct, right? Like if this is not meant literally, then that's totally fine. But people do like use this quote to justify bad decision making, where they just want to attack. Which we'll circle back to a little bit in our discussion about style, but I think it's obviously just when you take the quote out of context, it's just wrong, right? Because you kind of have to focus on the entire game before you get to the checkmate. But
so just be wary of these quotes, folks. So our next segment we're going to talk about here is chess psychology. And the only thing we have to say about it is stop talking about chess psychology. Because it just doesn't matter if you're not possessing the fundamental skills yet, right? That's what matters. Psychology is about form and stuff like that. But if you're sub 1400 or sub 1500 or whatever, that's just not really where you're going to make leaps and bounds, because you just don't have the skills that you want yet to be able to use psychology for.
That's an interesting point, Empty.
Okay. To our audio only listeners, you guys can't see the chat, but you're happy about it.
Is that so he's talking about psychology, so he's talking about the Oedipus complex, I guess, is like the psychology.
Oh, okay.
I guess that's the connection here.
Okay. I was
So it came out of left field for me for a minute.
Well, okay. But it's funny to me when I see a lot of scholastic coaches who have kids who are 300 or 400, and they come back and their coach is like, well, why didn't you use enough time? Why didn't you use more time? You would have been better. Or like, oh, I have a kid, when he's playing white, he's on, but when he plays black, he just doesn't know. Yeah. It makes no sense, right? If you're at 300, you're almost selecting your moves randomly. Doesn't matter if you spend a minute or an hour. Like, you don't have the skills necessary. You need to learn chess, or, as we talked about earlier, develop chess skills, not really learn chess, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah. Psychology overrated, I think.
Yeah, and I like, if you think about it, right, like what does psychology mean for like an individual player, right? Like if you're focusing really hard on your psychology, you're in bad form, maybe you're playing 150, 200 points lower than like what you would hope to be at the most. That's probably extreme, right? Very exaggerated. If you're like best form of your life, maybe you're playing like 100, 200 points better than you normally would, as opposed to, and like it's swinging, like you can't actually control it. Like to some extent you can, diet, exercise, whatever. Mm-hmm. If you just get better, then you're like your average is going up, right? Like you get to play better like all the time rather than just like when you're feeling it, you know?
Because the reality is form and stuff like that is going to constantly be an up and down. And trying to like always be on the upswing doesn't make sense, because that's not how humans work, right? You're never going to be like, oh, I'm going to get better because instead of being good half the time and bad half the time, I'm going to be good 99% of the time. And it's like that. I mean, look,
good luck.
Right? Consistent stuff like that matters, but like, you know, there's only so much you can do with stuff like that, right? And you're going to have good days and bad days, and good days and bad weeks.
Where psychology starts to matter, I think, is at the GM level. Maybe not even until the super GM level. Because so like, let's say Carlson wants to hit 2,900. What's he going to do? Is he going to get better? No, he's not. It's almost impossible on a practical level. What he's going to do is he's going to be as consistent as he possibly can be. And so like he has to, like, if you focus on the psychology and you can consistently be like at your best, maybe that's more efficient. But for the 99.9999% of us that will never be competing at the top level, psychology, no, forget about it. Throw it away.
And two things we should also have a disclaimer here. Sometimes people use psychology as a catch-all term to describe a lot of things. We don't mean by psychology philosophy of studying or philosophy of approach to the game. This doesn't this entire podcast is about approaching the game and approaching studying, right? So when we say don't focus on psychology, it doesn't mean don't have a good approach to the game. We're talking about these kind of elements of like, that's other stuff that people are talking about that's just not as important, right? That you shouldn't really be focusing on as much. And number two, just because psychology and kind of mind games sometimes seem to work, I find that anytime that somebody's trying to like play too much of a mental game and try and psych your opponent out, you just kind of end up psyching yourself out. It just kind of is a downward spiral when you start trying to play the head games too much. So that's something that I would say there. Like it just doesn't end up being worth it, and you're kind of a dick for doing it sometimes. I mean, I've done it in the past when I was a kid. It's just like don't be the guy who's like doing the like, I don't know, you know what I mean. You guys all know what I mean.
Yeah, don't play the game outside of the game to like try and like make your opponent uncomfortable. Usually it doesn't work. Usually it's just gonna like be neutral at best for you, and it's gonna make people hate you. Yeah. Like if you want to go back to that club again, like, or that tournament or whatever, like maybe don't be an asshole.
Yeah. And of course, when we say psychology, it also doesn't mean, don't like work on things like your emotional and mental health. That's just going to make you a happier person. Like when you go to a tournament or something like that. Like obviously we're both people who have had to, I think, spend deliberate time on emotional control, right? We're emotional people. I mean, I get intense over chess sometimes. And so I've had to take steps to do that. But I'm not somebody who's like, oh, I'm going to become a better chess player because of that. Like I'm going to be happier and I might have better results and I'm going to be a better person.
I will say something that I used to do when I was at the top of my game. I ate very healthy. I drank very little. I exercised intensely. And I think that did bleed over into my chess.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's something you should do, not just because of chess, something you should do just because it's going to improve your overall well-being.
Right. So stuff like that is okay. Don't expect it to be your only way to go forward.
Yeah, exactly. That's something that'll make you closer to your peak, but it won't push your peak higher.
Yeah. So that's it. We also want to talk quite a bit about something that people really just love to talk about, and that is chess play style. Now, it's not ridiculous to have a play style that you're proud of or anything like that, but people take it way too seriously, and they use it as an excuse to make poor decisions and make unobjective decisions. And Empty Since 1959 just put a funny quote in the chat.
The opponent's pen stopped. Oh, sorry, go ahead. You read it.
My opponent's pen stopped working and asked to borrow mine. Then he wouldn't share my own pen.
That is a new one for me. That's actually a good idea. I'm going to try that next time.
Yeah, okay.
Next time we're playing, why I'll borrow your pen real quick. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I've had somebody who, during the middle of a chess game, had a bag next to the table. And about move 10, reached down into his bag, unzipped it, pulled out a copy of the Quran, and put it on the table next to the board. Because he thought it would mess with me. I don't know why he thought it would mess with me. Maybe he just, because like Islam isn't a popular religion in America or something like that. But it ended up psyching him out because his dad actually came over and sat and watched the game and saw the Quran. He's like, what the fuck is going on? And so then, rather embarrassingly, my opponent eventually, 5 minutes later, took the Quran and put it back in the bag. My opponent lost the game and made a couple of key mistakes during that whole Quran bullshit. Well, I was just like, okay, fucking Quran, whatever. And then just played the game. So he psyched himself out because he tried to like involve a law or something, and it just didn't go well.
That's actually wild, dude.
It was Bill Hart.
Was it Bill Hart? Oh my god, that makes it so much funnier.
And we laugh about it to this day.
So for context, that's a guy that we know. That's a guy that like this isn't some random guy. Like this is a guy that we know well.
Yeah.
That's insane.
He still has a copy of that book. He has read it. He's a very well-read person. He likes to read a lot on other cultures. But that was just the funniest episode.
Oh, that's nutty.
Oh, that's hilarious. But play style, right?
Yeah, play style.
You came up with a pretty good quote earlier. That was, your play style is the decisions that you make when the decisions are roughly equal.
Yeah. I believe this is absolutely the case, right? Like, so if there's a move that's a little bit more aggressive or like maybe like more likely to lead to tactical complications. And there's a second move where it's more likely to close the position or go into something that's more of a maneuvering game or a positional game. But both of these evaluations are roughly the same, right? Like they don't change the evaluation of the position. That's where playstyle comes in, right? If like let's take a similar example, right, where you have an attacking move that like makes your position a little bit worse, or you have a positional move that doesn't. You should always play the positional move, or else the attacking move is just a mistake. It's not a style thing. It's just a mistake.
Right. And that's something that I've seen come up in watching some streams where people have said something along the lines of, "Oh, I'm just really a two bishops guy." And I, people like pro players say that sometimes when they're analyzing the position, where it goes along with what you're saying, where it is an equal position, it just matters with preference. But they're like down 2 pawns or something with a worse position, and they're like, "Oh, I think I'm fine because I have the bishop pair. I'm just a two bishops guy. I just love the two bishops." And it's just stupid. Like you're just down 2 pawns for like basically nothing except for some stupid little bishop pair. And probably if you're thinking that way, you're not even good enough to use the bishop pair. Like, it just doesn't.
Unfortunate but true. Yeah.
It's just kind of madness. So that would be the thing that we really want to be careful of. And this doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a play style or have an approach. It just means that like don't use the term play style to encompass bad decision making, right? Play style is play style. Bad decisions are bad decisions. And when you make excuses for your bad decisions, you are depriving yourself, again, as we talked about right at the beginning of the segment, the number one thing you can do to improve at chess. Finding your bad decisions, analyzing them out, figuring out how to do better. And when you're making excuses for that all the time with something like, "Oh, I'm an assassin," or "I'm a barbarian," other bullcrap that we saw from the Chess Personality website, which is kind of fun to take that quiz, but it just doesn't help when you do stuff like that. It's just messing you up completely.
And I'll say I've been guilty of this too, mostly in like blitz games or something, where I'll take a winning position and like liquidate to like a dry end game where I'm slightly better, and like because I like those positions, and then I'll draw.
Yeah, and it's definitely, and we're both guilty of this too. I mean, even I remember some positions. I think we analyzed once. It was like this Grunfeld line. It was this ending that was a lot better for white, just a lot better. And you were kind of like, you know what? I take this with the black pieces as well because it's an end game. I'd love to just grind it out. I was like, you're crazy. And I've done the other thing too, right? Where it was just like this very complicated position or something. And I was like, oh, I just take this with either side. And then you were like, well, no. It's just like getting mated with black here. I'm like, yeah, but whatever. And so trying to progress beyond that has been helpful for both of us, I think. Now, with that all said, I would like to ask you, what would you describe your play style as being, and how do you apply that to your decision making when you're thinking correctly, right? When you're playing well in a slow classical game, how much does play style actually get involved in your decision making process?
My conscious decision making, almost none, right? Like I prefer positions where I am slightly better in a long drawn out ending where I think I can like slowly outplay my opponent, or like some kind of thing where I like it's maybe positionally dynamic, but it's not tactically rich. Those are where I think I do best. But like if I think there's an opportunity to sack a pawn for an advantage, I'll happily go into a tactical complication.
Mm-hmm.
The subconscious aspect of this, though, I think, is that I maybe look at these sacrifices and stuff like these dynamic lines less, right? Like that's a real thing, right? And it's a real thing. That's a play style related mistake.
Yeah,
where you should be looking at everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
that
like
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, like in a classical game, I don't think I've ever had a situation where I'm like, this move is worse, but I'd rather play it, right? Like I don't think I've ever done that in my life.
Yeah.
Maybe when I was like 14 or something, but
yeah,
not in the last couple like decade and a half or something.
Yeah. And that was like when I played a game Saturday, somebody did this such a weird decision making process he had. Sort of he looked at the strength difference between me and him and like made some sort of inference about how I would play or something based on this, and had a chance to secure a pretty decent advantage, I think, in the opening. And then just made some ridiculous move, like in some Sicilian structure, took on c6, allowing bc6, with just allowing me to just dominate the center. Because he thought he didn't want it to be complicated because he would be less afraid than I was or something. He would be more afraid than I was or something like that. Like he wanted to simplify the game.
Which is like the opposite of what you would do, generally speaking.
Right. Well, generally against a strong player is stupid. Anyways, right? And B, why would you make decisions like that? You cannot do that. You just need to play chess. I mean, he just made a horrible, horrible decision based on nothing, based on no thought process, because he thinks, I don't know, it's like he thought I was just like some calculation beast who was just going to beat him. I don't know. It doesn't even make sense. Like I was happy to like play more.
Yeah.
I'm dry like Aaron. Like,
and the converse of this too is like there's the old adage, right? Like the stronger player like shouldn't try to make the game dry and like go to an end game against the weaker player. That's also bad advice. Like you should also just play the best move.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, and it's not that like these things are fundamentally insane, right? It's just that people take these things and they put it on like, step one of their thought process. They put it right at the front and they're just making decisions based on that totally. And you just can't do that. If you want to lean towards a certain way when there's two legitimate options, that's fine, right? That's what we just said earlier, and we said that was okay. But you cannot use it as a substitute for real brain activity. It just doesn't work like that. So we've been going for an hour now. Does anyone have any glaring questions that they want us to talk about before we probably dive into some chess? Is that
or criticisms? Yeah, I think that's the way. Yeah,
we're going to start looking at some positions and see how we're approaching this, and maybe talk about how we might have used to have approached this position. Like I have some positions that I know I've looked at when I was younger, and could kind of explain why I got this puzzle wrong back in the day. Yeah. So we have one. Weaker players are usually even weaker in the end games. Yeah, and in general, that's quite true, but also got to be careful to not generalize as well. And so but I will say generally, if you're trying to have a overall approach, like let's say you want to select openings, like, hey, when you go to play a 13-year-old, maybe don't pick the Latvian or something super sharp, right? Yeah. And understanding that, and that's fine because you're not making a poor decision based on that type of adage, right? You're just playing you're just taking a different option, right?
Yeah, but like you shouldn't like pass up an advantage because it's a tactical position against a lower rated player, right? Like you should take whatever you can get. Always.
And also, if you do play the move, get the advantage, it's tactical, and then they outplay you tactically, you just got to accept that and accept that that's something you should learn from too. So don't drive miles around your weaknesses and holes in your game because you're never going to actually address those. So that's something too. Sometimes playstyle just prevents you from addressing problems in your game.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. Yeah.
Do we have any more questions or assistance from the chat? Critique us. Tell us we're wrong. We need like a
and you guys can all disagree too. Like we're not like that we've prefaced this, but we're not like super GMs, right? Like we're just some 2000 rated expert schlubs, like just nothing super special about us. We just have been through the ringer, we've done this for a while, and we kind of have, and we've done things that don't work, which is why it's easier to for us to have, I think, a reasonable opinion, but we can be wrong.
We also have talked to a lot of people about this and experienced a lot of this, and so our opinions are pretty strong. We're pretty. We're opinionated on this stuff, because definitely when you hear the same advice 700 times, you feel like you definitely develop some opinionated. And Jamaican Hype Man says, "I feel my playstyle keeps me from improving." And I think that's probably true.
How do you mean, Hype Man, though? What's your can you elaborate on that? I'd be curious to see what you think your playstyle is, A, and like B, why you think that's a problem.
Also, one of the things that ties in a lot with playstyle, just while he's typing here, is playstyle is also really entrenched with opinions on the game, right? And there was a trainer, I think he was like Estrafos Grivos or something, said, "Why do adults not improve but kids do?" And he said, "Adults have too many opinions." Now, one can kind of debate this, and there's a lot with things like neuroplasticity. That's probably not the reason that adults don't improve, but it's a reason, right? And when you have a strong place, like not a strong play style, a play style that's really strongly formed, right, that's really entrenched in a specific way, you have a lot of opinions that usually aren't very flexible, and that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, having strong opinions in general is a bad thing in chess. Like, unless you're always right, like you kind of need to be able to admit that you're wrong a lot.
Yeah, because that's actually where you make improvements, right? You have a strong opinion on something that's wrong. That's just a fantastic way to improve your intuition.
My style is aggressive and very sharp tactics. I love complicated positions where the balance hangs on a stake from either side. Okay. So I don't know. I think so. What I think you're saying is that you have a weakness in positional knowledge, right? Is it's that you're stronger tactically than positionally. Oh, but a lot of times I attack all my pieces away is your concept. So okay, right? So so you dive into attacks that are not sound because you like to attack. Yeah, this is exactly what we're talking about, right? Like, so
yeah,
maybe like instead of attacking when the position doesn't call for it, you kind of take a step back and say, am I ready to sacrifice material?
Yeah. And also, one of the ways to help you not get so stressed about like having to attack is there's a lot more opportunities in the game than you think there are. So you don't need to force it all the time. Your opponent's going to make mistakes. Like, you can develop a plan and slowly build up an attack, and it will go fine, right? You don't have to take every opportunity to go ballistic, because your opponent is going to mess up, or just the natural course of the game is going to happen. And you're going to have an opportunity later that's going to be a lot better and a lot more fun and a lot more enjoyable because it's actually working to some extent, or maybe it's like still equal or something. Like you're not just throwing away your pieces and then being embarrassed.
Yeah,
it's actually just interesting. So that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I mean, just like attacking in general, like there's a lot of merit to making sure that like all of your pieces are in the near most active squares before you attack. Unless, like, if you can calculate some kind of concrete win, that's great. But if you can't, then A usually don't make the sacrifice if you can't concrete see a concrete win after sacking the piece. But I mean, sometimes you can. Sometimes you can like have enough compensation, but usually you should have a concrete thing calculated.
Yeah, so doing it. That's definitely true. Part of it, I mean, it's good to aggressively fight for squares. Just also think about the trade-off, right? When you're getting a square, or your like if you're sacking material to do that, sometimes it's just not worth it. And also understand that sometimes when your opponent secures a square or does something, they don't always just magically get that for free. Sometimes they are making a real concession to do that, right? Like if your opponent is doing something to prevent a bishop tactic on h2, right? Even though it doesn't like work for you yet, right? If they play a move like h3 or g3, that's a weakening move sometimes as well. So it's not like, oh, your opponent avoided this one idea, and now I have no ideas left. It just means your ideas change, right? And that doesn't mean you're worse off.
This is also a really good quote. I've been trying to better prepare my moves, but sometimes I feel like it will be too late if I don't claim the square. Mm-hmm. So what I think is really instructive about this is the absolute perfect example of why analysis is helpful. You can look at the game after it's been played, and like you can prove basically whether you're right or not, right? If you say, I don't know, I'm at a decision point, right? And I don't know. You spend an hour or 2 or 5, probably not 5, because you're probably not an idiot. Like you're probably not like an obsessive crazy person, but you spend like a half hour or something looking at this game and like proving out the different decisions that you could have made at this decision point. And then you understand the position better. Like that's why we're recommending this.
Yeah, that's a great way to tie that in. So with that said, let's maybe go into some chess positions. Do you have anything specifically that you think would be awesome to look at, or does anyone have any recommendations of a book? I have some positions here we could look at.
Yeah, if you have some positions, I can set up the board and stuff.
Yeah. Let's maybe what we should do is, do you have like a memorable game or memorable position from your praxis that you think would be interesting to look at, where you could outline your thought process, and then I'll maybe show 1 or 2 of mine or something?
Yeah, that would be very interesting. I'm wondering what I have in my database, though, is the thing.
Yeah, I'm still. How do you even share screen on this? I don't.
Oh, you don't. Oh, do you not have screen share? Hold on.
Yeah, I might. Oh, I have it. Yeah.
You have it. Okay.
Yeah. It's just all my stuff is on my chess space, which is on my other computer.
Oh, that is a problem. Yeah, let me see.
Here's okay. You know what I want you to do, even though obviously we bashed on chess on the play style. I want us to let's look at the positions in the chess personality quiz and explain why we think these kind of are decisions actually that are based on play style, and why some of them might not be, right?
Sure.
Correct or incorrect. I think that'd actually be really instructive to them.
Did I delete my tournament games? I might have deleted my tournament games database.
I don't know. What is that?
Or moved it somewhere else in the world. Hold on. We're gonna ask.
Also, while you're doing that, I will kind of start to cover something. I think we're gonna think on ending with this, but I can just cover some of it now. It's kind of how you should be spending money in chess, right? And one of the things that we really wanted to highlight is that there's a lot of free alternatives out there to a lot of things, right? There are ways to learn an opening without buying a $40 Chessable course or a $30 Chessable course, right? You don't need to spend a lot of money on something that's specific, like a specific opening or something like that. There's lots of ways to save money on chess by looking for free alternatives. And ways you can find those is online has a lot of good content on YouTube, right? YouTube has some very good chess content, and it's free, right? Sometimes you have to watch an ad or something, but who cares, right? It's like 15 seconds. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of good content on YouTube from strong players, right? And yeah, it's not as good as like if you had a private lesson with somebody, but a private lesson's a lot of money, right? So that's one thing we wanted to point out. Number two, with books, right? Libraries have chess books sometimes, right? And your friends have chess books that they don't use. So talk to your friends and figure stuff like that out, right?
Excuse me.
Where you don't have to constantly be buying a hardcover book or something for $35, right? Share these things with your friends because a lot of people have a lot of chess books that sit there unused. Number three, don't pay for this premium membership on these websites too much, right? Think about doing things like Chess where you don't have to pay to have unlimited tactics like you do on chess.com. Now, if you are trying to beat someone else's Puzzle Rush record, like Aaron did, maybe it's worth it buying the chess.com premium membership. But other than that, we have great gifts with sites like Chess and with platforms like YouTube that provide content for free. And you should be taking advantage of those.
Yeah. I will say I used to have a different opinion on this, but I think SCID, S-C-I-D, the open source chess database software, almost as good as ChessBase, and it's completely free. You have to get your own database somehow. Kaisa Base works great with it, and it's all 100% free. And if you're not like a super GM, it's probably worth it for you to use that as a database program.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's just absolutely true. So just be careful out there, guys. Don't spend too much money on something. You should not be spending hundreds of dollars on opening stuff as any player that's not Grandmaster, but like especially as an amateur, like even us. Like I wouldn't even look at look at screen share and go to Chessable actually right now if that's set up. If you're able to do that, I want to show
I can do that.
Some crazy stuff here that I just think is insane. And by the way, this completely prevents this podcast from ever getting a Chessable sponsorship.
Oh no, I'm sure that was really likely.
We're never getting these sponsorships. Yeah, YouTube Chess Network, Chess Explained, Kevin from the Chess website. Yeah, very cool. So I want you to go in and go to courses and go to openings. And I want you to right by the top there, right?
Yeah. This one, Understanding Chess Openings, E4.
Yeah.
Part 3. That's $300.
And look at the left. Now that's Kramnik with 1E4. Now if you look at the one on the top left, you have with video $150, and that's 40% off. And it's Plicta, who I've never friggin' heard of, and it's his French defense. You cannot do this. Like you cannot pay $150, or when it's not on sale, $250 for a video about the French, or multiple videos. I don't care. You know. Now,
this is an insane thing to do. Yeah.
Don't let somebody sit there and sell this to you by saying, well, it's 14 hours, 15 hours of video content, and you'd normally pay $30 an hour for a coach or more per hour, like $50 an hour. So 30 times 15, is like $450. So 250 is like half off or something, right? That's a bizarre argument, right? Because it's not the same thing. When you're working with a coach, you're working with a coach. You're asking questions. You're going over your games. It's not some rehashed video. And you just can't spend that. And a lot of people can't afford a coach anyways, right? Like I don't hire a coach, right? So it's not even affordable, even with the best version of this. And this is nowhere near the best version. It's just crazy.
It's an insane thing to do.
Even
look at also that. Like I'll say this too. Like videos are one of the worst ways to improve. There are cool like free YouTube like video creators out there like Jamaican Hype Man saying like Chess Network, Chess Explained. But like you'll get more benefit reading a book than you will watching a video if the content's the same.
Right. Or like and I will say like kind of keeping with the free thing, there's a lot of free articles online too. Right. You can read the tournament coverage. And so even without having to buy a book, right, And as we talked about, like sometimes you can get books for free anyways. Like you can still get a lot of written content. And some YouTube videos I will say are well formatted. Like Chess Base India he'll say the guy Sagar Shah will say, hey, this is a position. Take a second and calculate this out, and then I'm going to give you the solution. Or really is encouraging you to use your visualization and stuff. It's just a lot. And yeah, so this type of stuff is crazy. Now, even if we're not looking at the video, like look at Geary has a 1E4 repertoire. Even without the video, it's $50. $50? Really? It's crazy.
For an E4 repertoire that you can get by like looking at positions on Lichess or something.
Yeah, which you're going to memorize better and know better and understand better because you came up with it. And some of this stuff is bizarrely specific too, right? Like it's just like if you scroll down even further, like the Berlin for $50, really? I mean, your opponent's not even going to play it. Your opponent's not even going to play E4 half the time or over half the time. And then they're not even going to play the Lopez like another half the time. And then when it does, you're just going to blunder a piece.
Yeah.
And then you just feel like an absolute jackass because and I don't mean to harp on anybody who's bought one of these courses. Now, whatever, maybe if you're a strong player and something like this really matters, I don't really know. I have to be honest about this. I think that these are overpriced. I don't think this is a stupid learning tool. I don't think that it's a stupid platform. I think that the prices are just out of their mind. Like
almost everything on this page is just an absolute scam. Like this is crazy.
Now I will say what I have done is I created a file with ChessBase, and you could do this with Skid as well. And what I did is I did create a course, and I created a personal course for myself and put a file in there that I could go back through. Now, I don't really ever do it. I just wanted to see if this concept really worked. And so that's something you could do too. If you guys are interested in using the tool of spaced repetition that Chessable provides, creating your own course, which might be under tools or something like that.
Tools, create a course right here, easy peasy.
Like up to 3 or 4 free courses, and you can upload a big PGN batch, and then you can memorize your own personal preparation that you've done, where you've done the research, so you're already like understanding and learning it better, and B, you're getting to make your own personal choices on which lines you want to go for instead of having to follow an author's recommendations. Now, I will say when something's pre-built for you, that's awesome, and it's easier sometimes, and it's sometimes quite nice, and sometimes can be very helpful. But everybody has to make. You just gotta make decent choices with your money.
Yeah.
It's just there's no other way to put it. I mean, I don't know what some of the people in the chat have for financial situations, and maybe some people have plenty of money. When I see $50, that's like a tenth of my bank account, currently my running account. I mean, like I have other things, but like my like cash account is like not like that. That's a big chunk of that. So I would never spend that. And I don't think a middle class person should spend that either, right? Like it's just sometimes it's just a ripoff through and through, no matter how much money you have or whether you could afford it.
Yeah,
it's just kind of bizarre, but not to slam Chessable too much, but
no, and a lot of this isn't even Chessable's fault to some extent. Like it's also like the people who are like using Chessable to to shill their products that are very much overpriced. Yeah.
And also, we should be careful. Like, we don't necessarily mean to criticize too many personal authors, because once everybody kind of charges this price, you kind of just go with the flow sometimes. So it's not to say like, oh, Geary's a bad person because he charged $50, right? Like, it doesn't mean like some of the, it's just.
I'm not anti Niels Grandilius just because he has this idiotically priced scam course, like, but at the same time, don't buy it.
Yeah, most middle class people have more than 500 in their account for sure.
Yeah. I don't think Wyatt considers himself a middle class person right now. I think he's a college student. So,
but even if you have more than, I don't care if you have 25,000 or 50,000,
Yeah, like I consider myself relatively comfortable income wise, and savings wise. I wouldn't buy any of this. Like because I think it's worthless as a tool in general. I think buying a course to memorize opening lines is a worthless concept. But like even if it's for free, I wouldn't get it. But like let's say this is like guaranteed to boost my ELO 50 points. I'm not buying it because I know how to do it for free. It's hard work because it's a waste of money through and through.
Yeah, right.
Unless you're literally like a multi-millionaire, like don't buy these.
I mean, you don't pay $12 for a head of lettuce, like you know what I mean, or like or something. It just doesn't. It does. I don't care who you are. You're not going to walk into the grocery store and like offer to pay more for a potato. It's like
you can't pay $12 a pound for pork, for instance. Sorry.
This is a somewhat inside joke.
Yeah.
Wyatt had a slight misunderstanding about the price of pork. I used to work in the deli. Meats were priced highly because they were sliced, and also you guys sell
like fancy ass meat. It's actually like worth it, but
no, it actually is worth it. I do really want to try your pork, but what I would like to, if you guys could just send me some free pork.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, I'll write a good review on my website or something, and you guys will get exposure.
Yeah. Wyatt's a pretty big influencer. He's got a duck Instagram.
Yeah. Touch that thing in a year and a half. So let's slide over to that chess personality site and take a look at those positions.
Yeah, sure.
Was toxic. Yeah, $12 for pork. It is too expensive.
Not actually going to take the quiz. We can find the personalities here, right? Hold on. Here we go.
Oh, you didn't want to take the quiz?
What's that?
Oh, you don't.
I already did this on stream, like not even that long ago.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. From hens to heifers.
The pork comment was toxic, man. Sorry, Sam. I'm sorry, Amber. I had to. All right. I mean, we can take the quiz. Like, we can look at some of these positions. I guess. I guess. Actually, there is a couple of positions that are kind of interesting in here.
Let's take the quiz, and let's. I'll just disagree with everything you say. No, try.
Yeah. So here, this is an example where we have a roughly equal position. I'm assuming, theoretically, like some computer eval says this is equal, and it says which would you rather have. And wow, I guess I'd rather have black here. I'd rather like. Or is white just better? Or am I crazy actually?
So it's black to move.
If black to move, what's happening here? what the hell is this position?
If I'm playing king to f8, what are you doing exactly to me?
I'm assuming rook takes on e7 and like attacking heavily, right? Right, rook e7, king e7, knight f5 is the concept.
Yeah. And if I just bring the king back to d8?
I guess it's like bishop takes f6, knight takes f6, queen takes.
Well, I'll play gf6.
You play gf6.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get some kind of like still queen to g7, I guess.
And rook to e8.
Queen takes f7.
And bishop. We cannot take on d5 yet. Rook c8, maybe.
Yeah. So I guess the point of this like situation, right, is that we've got like this position probably roughly equal, where black is like suffering an attack but has some positional trumps for it. Like he's got like this weak D pawn that he's attacking.
He's up a piece.
Well, he'll be up a piece when White sacks the piece, right? Oh, he's up a piece to begin with.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why. That's why White's not just better. I got you.
Right.
Yeah, I'd take Black here, and that's that's just because I like defending positions. That's interesting. Okay, I just miscounted the pieces, which is that's kind of a problem too, guys. So a big thing about learning chess is that you want to count how many pieces you have. Yeah, with your numbers.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is one where I think it really illustrates the stylistic differences, right? You could probably take both sides here, and you can try and make something out of it. But if you're somebody who looks at this and you're really uncomfortable with one of these sides, take note of that, because you might be forced into one of these positions, no matter what your protests are, right? You might just be forced to play the black side of this one time, or play the white side of something like this one time. So
yeah, like sometimes you'll have to sack a piece because like it's the only way to be better, or sometimes you'll have to defend because so that's just the way it goes. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll take black in the next position. This is not an important one because it's just about kind of whatever.
There we go. Black has given up a critically important square d5. Black has lots of potential counterplay. So this is a fun position because Wyatt has played this position many, many, many times in his life.
So
many thousands and hundreds of thousands of times.
So I've interpreted this question kind of weirdly, because I don't know if it's asking who's for choice. Do you think White's for choice? Do you think Black's for choice? To me, it's interpreting it as, well, A says White's clearly better because Black's just given up a square. And B says Black has a lot of counterplay, and this is actually a reasonable way to play. Right? And I think B is objectively correct. Right? Like people are willing to play this position with the black pieces at every level of chess, including the highest level. Like nobody is looking at this and saying, oh, well, White just has a d5 square. It's just too much. You just can't play like this. Right? Like this to me, like if you want to play White here versus playing Black, that's a stylistic difference. That's fine. If you think that Black is just worse here, that's unobjective. That's not a stylistic difference. I mean, Black is slightly worse. It's just a typical theoretical opening, right?
Yeah, I would assume. Like, I don't actually like this question in general because White is slightly better because it's White, but like
because it's just how things go. But yeah,
and the question is weirdly structured too because I think both things are true, right? Black has given up a critically important square. This is true. He gets potential counterplay for it with a bishop pair. Yes, this is true.
And I interpret B as basically saying you believe both those two things, and A is saying I think Black's given up a square. Period. Stop. Right. I think B is adding on to that. This is an example. I think that you have to respect this way of playing. You cannot look at this as Black's given up a square. This is very reasonable. You have the bishop pair. Black has counterplay. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get smashed here. And this is just playable for both sides. And, that's just how it is.
Let's go B. All right.
So this is about your instinct.
Yeah, this is great. So what's instinct is a very important concept here, right? Because like your instinct, you can just because you have an instinct doesn't mean you have to make the move, right? But this is like indicative of like the first thing you look at, right? So although I'll say the other thing too is that like maybe my instinct is to play bishop g3. The first thing I'm going to look at is to take the pawn, right? Just because you look at forcing moves first as a matter of practical choices, right?
Yeah. So I think that this is interesting. The rook on c3 would make you consider this a lot more. I mean, in just like a typical position where this rook is on a1 or something, I think like in a blitz game, you probably would be thinking about just playing bishop g3 because the weaknesses are still there. I mean, you're still going to play h4 or something, like knight h2, h5, f3. It's just like some sort of like just kingside attack for White. with a rook on c3, you could think about this more. But of course, that's starting to get outside of the scope of the question, where it's asking what's your first instinct.
Well, so bishop g3 has like the drawback, of course, right? Bishop g, you can play knight e4 immediately and like lock down any kind of attacking chances.
Yeah.
And maybe get f5 in, and maybe the space is valuable.
Yeah. I would say my first instinct is to keep the piece, and if I calculate something specific, then I'll give the piece, right? And I think that that's not insane. I think that that's close to objectively the way to think. But just like Aaron said, the first thing you should really be calculating here is knight takes g5. So that's a funny, another kind of funny question.
Yeah, some of the stuff in these quizzes are like,
yeah,
but
yeah. So, that was actually an interesting one. Do you play gambits?
Okay, yeah, that's true. That's actually very interesting and relevant stylistically. Yeah, you're right.
It's hard to just say no. I think gambits are bad, because there are a lot of gambits that are quite good, like Marshall and stuff like that. Draw by force, basically. Like
yeah, and then you have to like consider what's a gambit, right? Like, is it a gambit where it's like just a regular opening, but like there's a line where you sack a pawn?
Like, like Queen's Gambit or something.
Yeah, or like some lines of the Catalan, or like there's so many. Yeah,
are all super reasonable.
Yeah.
And if the question is, if people are interpreting the question as, do you sack pawns for compensation? If you answer no, you're nuts. And you're not, you are missing so many opportunities in your games. Compensation is real, folks. It's not the Easter Bunny. Like you have to be able to give up pawns and sack things to get real chances. Now, if this is asking, do you play things like the Latvian Gambit or whatever, right? Because you're a lunatic. That's very different, right? But if the answer, if you're looking at that position, you're thinking, no, I'm just not comfortable giving up material, right? And this is,
that's not a style thing. That's a you're wrong thing, right?
Right. And this is like when we talk about that p-sack position, where I was like, well, I'll keep the material unless I see a clear reason otherwise. Like that second part is key, right? If I see a clear reason otherwise, I'm not going to be like, I don't sack pieces. Like I'm going to sack the piece and I'm going to play the game of chess. And you have to approach it that way, even though you understand that a lot of the times you aren't going to be making the best decisions. You have to be striving to make the best decisions and not letting style just sabotage half of your decision-making processes.
Or fear, for that matter. Like a lot of people are afraid to be down material, but like, so a lot of times it's just the best move to give up material.
Right, so we're gonna probably, and so this one's number 7. We haven't looked at this one yet. So this is asking about the position we had 2 positions ago, which is, how would you think about whether or not to take on g5? And basically, A is saying you think about this more schematically. You'd say, well, I've gotten 2 pawns. I have a strong rook on c3 that's going to go to g3 or h3, or maybe even f3. I have this strong bishop on c2 that's hitting the b1 to h7 diagonal with queen that could come up to d3 or h5 or f3 or somewhere in there. I could even be pushing my e-pawn forward, for example, in conjunction with rook e1 and e4 to take control of the center. And then I have very reasonable compensation for the piece, right, with my 2 pawns plus other positional advantages. B is saying, I'm really going to calculate this out. I'm going to say, am I really getting something going here, right? I'm going to really look further, but I'm not going to be thinking as schematically. So I may be missing some schematic ideas, or I may be spending a lot of time here, right, where someone who's schematic might be making a decision somewhat more efficiently, I guess you could say. And that's interesting. So I would kind of ask how you would think about this. Would you just start calculating, or would you really be thinking about this kind of in schemes?
So I think you have to do both at the same time. I think the number of positions where it's correct to sack a piece, but that it does not end in a forced mate, is greater than the situation where most of the time when you sack a piece, it's not going to end in forced mate. So you're going to have a position where you have to settle on, do I have enough here? So I think both of these is correct, right? Like I guess I would calculate, and then I would settle on a situation where I say, like I have enough here, or I know I don't have enough. But
actually, that's funny that Empty since 1959 mentions this. Prodigy is not necessarily the best. None of them are the best. That's a good point. That's something we're mentioning as well.
Yeah, that's exactly the point, right? Like these are all just styles.
Yeah. So what were you gonna say? You were gonna continue with?
I think I don't know. I don't like this one. I guess
like the wording. Yeah, I would lean towards B because I would say like
you have to calculate. You just have to.
Because what I would be thinking is there a clear way that Black is gonna come up with a defensive resource here, and then it's just gonna all go away, right? Yeah. I can sit here and say, oh, my rook's good, my bishop's good, my pawns are good, like whatever. But if I take on G5, take, and then my opponent goes, like has some idea like King G7, Rook H8, King F8, and I'm struggling to get compensation, then that's it, right? You know what I mean? And so I would say that you have to combine both of these, but I think that we'll probably lean just towards B, just because we kind of have to give an answer here.
Yeah, we'll go B here. Under serious time pressure, you're more likely to miss a tactic or move pieces aimlessly.
Well, look, if you miss a tactic, hey, that just happens. Sometimes that happens. You can't be throwing pieces around.
Absolutely. Randomly. Unless it's Ultra Bullet.
You're wrong. Oh, yeah, but Ultra Bullet, I guess it's okay. So this is an interesting one in stylistic, because I do remember you doing this quiz, and we actually
we had different opinions here.
So I'll let you outline yours, read the answers, and kind of outline your thought process.
So option A is white should trade bishops and put a strong knight on d4, which will prevent any counterplay from black doubling the rooks on the c file by defending c2.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is white should push d4, temporarily misplacing black's dark square bishop and start attacking the king side with f5, where the black king sits alone.
Yeah.
So I preferred trading the bishops and playing knight to e4, and like essentially getting a very strong lockdown on the position, but making it harder to make progress. Right. So basically, white's better, but there isn't like a specific solid plan forward.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you play d4, you have a very clear idea of playing f5 and launching a kingside attack. So those are the differences, and I prefer the lockdown where you trade bishops and play knight e4.
So I remember during the thing that you had, I was kind of looking at it slightly differently. Yeah, I mean, I looked at the overall problem pretty similarly. My conclusion was a little bit different. I felt that after the takes and the trade on c5 and putting the knight on d4, that it was really hard to make the progress. Although, as I'm looking at the position now, I'm not sure if I'm agreeing with my original assessment. I don't know. I actually think that both ideas are just very playable. Because like when you play d4, you're kicking the bishop back. You're actually really locking in that light square bishop on b7. Your bishop on e3 could actually be a powerful attacking piece. It could go into g5 after you push f5. And if you want to think about this structurally, you're getting a front structure where you're achieving f5, which, as if you kind of are aware of this, that's usually a big deal in a front structure. And I think this dark square bishop could be a really strong attacking piece. And it looks really dangerous to have these three minor pieces versus basically black 0 on the king side. So my first thing is, I think after d4, white's probably strategically just winning. The thing is, after bishop takes c5, whatever takes c5 and knight d4, I think white's also strategically winning.
Yeah.
Because you're pushing f5 anyways after you slide the rook into e1. Right? Rook d to e1 protects the e5 pawn. You're going to push f5, and you're going to push maybe f6 or whatever. And, obviously ef5, knight f5, the queen can't take on e5. And the queen would have to go back somewhere awkward. So my only slight concern here on why I might slightly prefer d4 is I like how it's kind of strengthened my grip on the e pawn, the e5 pawn. which I think if I put a knight on d4, maybe push f5, black could get counterplay somehow by being able to snap that pawn off. And then suddenly I don't have as much material in the attack anymore. I don't have this pawn on e5 that's controlling f6. My dark square bishop's been traded off. But, when I look at bishop takes c5 and something at knight d4, that's also really intriguing too because there's no counterplay coming on c2. I'm immediately getting my knight out of the way on this really strong blockading square of d4. And I could just play a little bit more slowly where there's no real way to make it work. I've been trying while talking to calculate some lines with a5 and b4 and a4 and b3, and black just has no way to actually get real counterplay. So the thing is, if you want to play slowly, take on c5 and play knight d4, and just being careful and making sure, you don't blunder the e-pawn. You know what I mean? You don't mess up. Yeah, it's pretty legitimate too. I think both of these are pretty reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct, and I agree with that. And
so I would lean, I guess, towards B.
Yeah, Wyatt's a B guy. I'm an A guy. We're gonna meet in the middle. We're gonna go A B. No, we'll go Wyatt because I went B last time. All right. You started the game with
you went yours because you went A last.
Oh, did I say A?
It doesn't matter.
No, come back. No.
Oops. No. That's you got to click through it again. Just go black. It was B.
Okay.
B. 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 No, you wanted to answer yes there.
Oh, whatever.
Okay.
B. A. Okay, and now B.
Yeah, B. Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
So you started with d4. Would you rather your opponent play d5 or f5?
F5, right? This one's a stupid one because f5 is just objectively worse than d5.
Yeah. So that's an example of where maybe you would be like, well, I prefer d5 because I prefer a positional game, or f5 because I prefer a tactical game, right? That's what that question I think is getting at, and we're sort of like, yeah, f5's worse.
Yeah, like even though like you would. Yeah, like even though they're different stylistically, like the fact that f5 is objectively worse is more important than any kind of style considerations.
Yeah, I think f5. Yeah, f5's kind of risky, and you've got to be able to be willing to play those positions no matter what.
Hype Man is a romantic player. There we go.
Yeah, that makes sense based on what you were describing earlier. You have been ahead of pawn for most of the game, but after tough resistance from your opponent, you only have 5 motherfucking minutes left in this position. Should you play on or offer your opponent a draw? And I think you got to keep pushing for the win. You don't really have a risk of losing this too much. I mean, I know there's an outside A pawn, but you have a passed D pawn, and you're going to create a kingside passed pawn probably. Yeah. This looks like you could just lose this pretty easily with black, and 5 minutes is plenty of time, I think.
Yeah, if you're wimping out here, then when are you ever going to play for the win, right?
Yeah, these are the positions where you score points. So, what are you doing?
Which statement comes closest to your feelings? It's always a joy to be paired against someone you've crushed in the past.
Mm-hmm.
The odds of winning are slightly higher against opponents one is previously.
I'm sometimes afraid when I play someone I crushed in the past because I don't want my score to be messed up. I just like how it's just there. It's like, let's not play you. I just annihilate you. It's like, why play?
I guess B. Like I don't know. I'm almost never like very excited to play somebody unless like. Like I'm more excited to play people that I like, that are like better than me than like people I've crushed, right?
Right. So you tend to like playing against me, and you can do.
I do enjoy playing against Wyatt though, because we do get interesting games usually.
Yeah. You like playing against Lucas a lot though, right?
I do like playing against Luke. Well, yeah, I just that's true, but that's that has less to do with his skill and more to do with the fact that we both work at the same company.
Well, he's just also categorically a better player, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Okay, I could make the same joke 5 more times.
You can, but let's continue.
Yeah, I was gonna say we can just move on to that.
Yeah. All right. With plenty of time on your clock, what would you do in this position? Trade on e6 and play rook d7 because the endgame is good for white, or redirect the knight to c3 to preserve the better minor piece.
This is a funny one because when you first read it, it makes it sound like the 2 options are in the first option. But what it's
Yeah.
really asking here is basically, would you do these things in A, do either of these things based on the positional principles considerations, or would you be calculating the hell out of knight takes e6 first?
Yeah.
And I like, to me, again, it kind of be a combination of both. Like, I'd be calculating knight takes e6, and if it doesn't work, I don't know, you go back to c3. Because why, like, if knight takes e6 doesn't work, it makes very little sense because the knight is better here.
Yeah.
Because black's bishop is kind of poor. The knight's just finagling better. It can get like into d4 or something like that and go to c6. It's just a better piece right now. So if
I don't know. I also have like the practical consideration though of this. You have plenty of time on your clock with this position.
Mhm.
How many more like super critical decisions are you gonna have to make? Like I feel like this is a good time to invest your clock if you have it.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely true. MT1059 says, "Would you rather have a date with a beautiful girl or castrate your father?"
Ooh, I'm gonna have to go with castrate my father so he can't have any more competition children, and then I'll get the date with the girl anyway. Ah, I gotta play the long game.
The girl like only is interested in your family for some reason.
Exactly, yeah.
That's a logic there.
Yeah, and she would have absolutely waited for the
Mhm.
brother to grow up. Yeah.
I feel like that's more. Why would I want to castrate my? I don't know.
It's a
Maybe.
pretty weird question.
Oh, it's just so gross to like think of your parents having this nice little chess podcast here episode, and we have.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's think of B. You want to go with B because
Let's go
that's
with
what you were
B.
saying, yeah, because you like the.
What do you I disagree.
Now this is one. Here's one. This is trying to ask about a stylistic difference. Where like if you're an aggressive player, you're gonna pick B, and if you're not, you're picking A. This is it's stupid to play like this. I mean, you can't play like this and score points, right? This is dumb.
Yeah, isn't this like just
Down,
terrible? Like this is like much worse for black here.
you're down a rook, and like you're not even like your king's not even. It doesn't even make sense. I mean, the knight will get captured. I'm sure, but like.
All right, we're gonna go with A here.
Right. This is a great example, right? Where
Yeah.
it's wait, hold on, where's the queen going? I guess let's just check this for a second.
Let's yeah, I guess we can analyze it. I guess going to H4.
Bishop
H4 bishop E7 is annoying. Is this like actually equal somehow?
No. There's no way this is.
I don't know, man. This might be equal.
No, I'm pretty sure it's not equal because I think the point is it is bad, and it's like basically, are you?
Are you sure? Like,
How is it equal? I don't think this is. So queen H4, bishop E7, whatever, right? Like it's. Well, okay. What if I go queen C3 or something? Right? Is that just like okay?
Queen C3, D4,
and queen C4.
all right. Let's say like queen E7 here.
Now, I will point out I could probably play queen F7 and I'm up in exchange, right? And I think that your pawn center is too weak to have enough compensation because I'll play D3.
This is true. Yeah, okay. This is just worse. This is just worse. Fair enough. All right. But it's not as simple as it looks at first blush. But yeah,
No,
it should of course be bad for.
This is too much of.
Yeah, it is like a full rook.
The thing is, your king's not safe either, right? Like it's not like you're 100% developed here, right?
Yeah.
You still have quite some time before you get your king safe, and White could. I mean, I could see a situation where White's suddenly playing D3 or D4 here, and the bishop's springing into G5. A bishop goes into D2, E2 to H5, and suddenly Black's like getting crushed or something.
Yeah.
And then black also can't exchange any pieces because then he loses by material. Like, I don't know how you approach winning this position. It's really hard.
No, I think we agree that this is worse for black. Let's go. For losing a game, have you ever broken something or yelled out loud? Okay, we both have to go yes on this one.
Yeah, we do. So we do have some disagreement in the chat about position number 15. Seem to indicate that then I say, yeah, I mean, they're not getting out of life, but you're still down material even when it is. And the problem is it's taking you multiple templates just to recapture the knight. So by the time you get the knight, right, like, aren't you like giving up your development advantage, and then you're just down material and your king's ridiculously weak?
Yeah, right? Like that's the thing, right? It's like we buy the knight sells its life for multiple tempi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool.
Wait to play and castle. This is an interesting one, I guess, because both sides are probably about equal.
One where it's, I think, a reasonable decision. In general, castling queenside, kind of risky in these structures where black can shove some pieces, some pawns forward, but white can as well. The problem is white has this hook on c3, right, that black can use to open up the queen side, whereas black has not created such a similar hook on the king side. But white is pretty well placed for his attack. The queen on c2 and the bishop on d3 form a nice battery. The bishop on f4 is well placed. A knight could go to e5. And black's bishop on g4 might end up being subject to quite a few tempo gaining attacks with h3, etc. Whereas black's pieces are not as naturally well placed for the queenside attack. Black's going to have to somehow swing this queen, I don't know, like you have to go b5, b4, and then like, a6, b5, b4, queen has to go to b8, something like that.
Yeah, so, or like you have to move the knight and play c5 somehow, and it's just cumbersome.
And it's rather, so basically there's pros and cons, a lot of pros and a lot of cons to castling queenside. With kingside, you're just getting, well, a much more dull position.
Yeah, it's maybe slightly better for white, but it's very emphasis on the slight.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm inclined to castle kingside here because I think that white's position is a little bit more harmonious, and I don't need to do anything super nuts to get a playable game here. Because I don't think castling queenside offers a big edge. Like, if castling queenside was offering like a really strong attack, and then there was some risk involved, okay, you know what I mean? You'd really think about this, and I might go for that because you have to take chances when they're given to you. But here, I'm not seeing that castling queenside is suddenly winning me the game. And I feel like I'm creating a lot of risk without a ton of reward. So this is a fantastic style position. So this is one where I think, yeah, both would be reasonable. I'm gonna choose A.
Yeah,
that's me.
I'll also choose A, and I think this is highlighting our relatively similar styles. Whereas someone like Jamaican Hype Man would probably choose B.
And he wouldn't be incorrect. He would
be
just
exactly. It's completely reasonable to go for the attack here.
So you guys. So.
All right. I get excited or nervous before a game. I don't worry about prizes, money, titles, or honors while playing. I just play my game.
This is an interesting little discussion. I know we don't like to talk about psychology too much, but it is interesting briefly to talk about this. Now, I think some people kind of immediately think, oh, he didn't want the light square diagonal to be a problem. Like, yeah, that's very reasonable too. A lot of people assume that B would be great, right? You just go in, you play your game, you don't worry about that. And sometimes it is. But what I will say is, and I was hearing a lot about this when talking about like hyper competitive people like Tiger Woods or somebody, right? Where the nervousness and the excitedness creates intensity, right? That like it helps sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
You focus, and it gives you desire and motivation, and especially when you're getting ready for a game or you're preparing and practicing. So again, guys, like as we said, don't take psychology too seriously. Don't ponder these questions way too much. But in general, I think either way is kind of a reasonable approach. You're gonna you're going to be a little more relaxed if you're B. And I think for me, transitioning a little bit more from A to B has helped. But being A helps too, right? Like, and it's okay. So I'm somewhere in the middle of these right now.
I'm I'm closer to the B. I'm closer to the fucking send it, but I used to be heavy A.
Well, I think on your stream you answered A, actually. That was funny.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. it does fluctuate. Like there are times where I'll be an A, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is how would you come up with a plan? So this isn't as much the decision making, but more the thought process.
Consider the strengths and weaknesses of Black's position.
Empty since 1959 has called us out on our BS and said that A is always true, B is always false. Yeah, he has said, well, yeah, come on, everybody gets nervous.
Yeah, fair enough. Consider the strengths and weaknesses of Black's position, decide where my pieces feel best, or I would calculate some line for White to see how strong various possibilities are.
So my thing is, I think a lot of my pieces are, I think they're kind of going where they're going at this point. Like the bishop's already been developed to G2. You know, the rook's been put on E1. The knight's on D2. Where's it gonna go? It's not really going to C4. It's probably not going to E4 anytime soon, right? And the bishop on C1 doesn't have a lot of reasonable squares to go to. It's just going to go somewhere on the C1 to G5 diagonal. So, like, decide where my pieces feel best. I mean, I guess I don't really know. Like that would be a part of it, right? A big part of it is like, well, am I going to put my queen on C2? Am I going to put it out on B3? Do I want to put it on E2? Maybe there's a weakness on E6 later if Black puts his bishop on A6 or something. So that's a part of it. I would say I would kind of start calculating specifically here what various structural transformations I want. So I would start calculating E5 or something and decide if E5 and D4 is good for me and my pieces are well placed in that structure. I'm not sure about that. I would consider something like E5 followed by C4, coaxing the pawn to D4, or maybe threatening to take on D5 with the C pawn instead of the E pawn, followed by Queen B3, moving the knight and pressuring D5. I'd also look at ED5 immediately and decide whether or not it's helpful to remove the E pawn from E6, and then maybe planting a knight on E5 followed by F4, or not playing F4 and playing knight T2 to F3. I consider EF5 and decide if that structural transformation is okay. Now, Black would have the option of playing EF5, basically transposing to ED, so I probably wouldn't spend too much time on that because I think that just is giving Black more options for no reason. And then I basically consider a lot of other moves that keep the tension, such as knight F1. So I would just start calculating here. I think that I have a little bit of a conceptual talking to and kind of decide a little bit of where my pieces want to go. But I would say generally pretty soon in this process, I'd start calculating.
Yeah, so we differ a lot here. I would spend almost no time calculating here, and I would spend like some time imagining like different structures and different placements. I would maybe calculate the line that I thought was best to make sure it was safe, but I would like imagine stuff like A3, B4, imagine like what's my bishop like if it's on B2, imagine like where my knight could be like if I play like knight F1, H3, G4, like without calculating so much, just like imagine different setups.
Yeah, and I think, basically what I'm doing is I'm doing like an abridged version of what you're doing as a precursor, and then I'm switching to calculation a little bit faster. And of course, a little bit depends on like what I guess we're defining as calculation sometimes, because that term isn't as clear cut as.
Well, I'm barely looking at concrete lines at all. I'm just looking at like some fantasy positions.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, I think either way is. So what is harder for you to do? And so this is an example where we're recognizing your style can help you to improve, right? So saying, hey, what's harder for me to do right now? You're having trouble with A, work on plan building, work on positional chess or something like that. If you're having trouble with B, work on tactics, work on attacking chess. Go through that whatchamacallit book, the big red one, The Art of Attack or something.
Yeah, the big red one.
Yeah. Right. So I think this is one that's totally up to whatever your style is. I think both of us probably generally slide into B, but I think we're both trying to be well-rounded players. So I would say
Oops. Oh, I skipped the last one by accident.
So he came out as bot Vinnick, which I've actually never had.
Well, because it was kind of a
weird one
melding
because
between the
both
two
of
of
us,
us.
yeah.
So like together we're bot Vinnick. Yeah, which kind of makes some sense.
I guess, yeah. The thing is, when I do play games, sometimes they come out quite ludicrous. But the way I approach it always seems to be kind of. I think I'm just fundamentally an ambitious player,
Yeah.
right?
You
And
do
I
have
think sometimes when you play against people a few hundred points lower, it's just the opportunities are tactical. I guess I don't know.
yeah, this makes sense.
So, yeah. Because if you guys have seen any of my games, they're just sometimes they're just kind of nuts. But they're nuts also like in more like the positional conceptual way, right? Like it's like I'm allowing
You just get weird positions, yeah.
yeah. kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
So do we have? So what I would like to ask specifically, you talked a little bit earlier. We touched on doing some calculation training and the importance of that. I don't know maybe if we mentioned as much as we kind of meant to. When you do calculation training, what does that look like for you, or what did that look like for you when you were at your peak? Does this mean tactics, puzzles, and lead chess, or does this mean something a bit harder?
So when I was taking chess very seriously, what I would do is so this is Kotov's suggestion and it worked very well for me, is I would set up a position from a book that had a lot of analysis. Like I really liked Art of Analysis by Jan Timman.
Mm-hmm.
I liked even the Kotov book had some examples in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would analyze. I would stare at the position. I would move pieces. I would analyze and calculate for 2 to 3 hours.
Okay.
And like try to build up as many things as you can see. Kotov recommends keeping a notebook. Sometimes I would do a notebook. Sometimes I would do it in my head. But just calculate for hours until you want to kill yourself. Until you and try to determine the best truth of the position that you think you can see.
Mm-hmm.
And then you read the analysis at the end of that and compare your notes.
Okay.
And the notes at the end is like kind of a sanity check, like a helpful thing. But most of the value you get is just from the hard work of calculating.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a long time to it'll take many sessions of this to see like tangible results, but you do see results.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Now I've done some hard kind of calculation puzzles. I've never done that. But the thing that I think we should really hark on is calculation training is more than tactics puzzles. It's really just not tactics puzzles at all. It's just a totally different thing. Calculation is really is a huge tool in your decision making process, and it's more than just picking up dropped pieces. It's really just a large part of how you're going to be making a lot of critical decisions. Right now, when we're talking about positions that are kind of just in the early opening where it's plans, it's not as big of a role there. For Aaron, it wasn't much of a role at all, if at all, right? If any.
Yeah.
For me, it was a decent amount, right? But still, it was a pretty good amount. But it wasn't everything, right? But when you get into critical, important positions where the value of the move is very high and the value of the mistake is very high, calculation is super important. And unfortunately, those critical positions show up in every game. So it's tough. And calculation is the number one practical tool that is differentiating a lot of people's practical playing strength, right? When you see knowledgeable people who don't play good over the board chess, like have low over the board chess ratings, but they know a lot about chess, first thing you should be checking is their calculation. And 90% of the time that's it. That's the problem.
Yeah. And that's so a big reason, like why I said that it's more than just tactics puzzles. A big reason to a big thing to understand about this, when you do a very hard Lichess puzzle, right? Like let's say a 3000 rated Lichess puzzle, every single move, there's only one correct move.
Mm-hmm.
When you're calculating in a game, a lot of times there are multiple paths to victory, and you just have no way of knowing that, right? You might be maybe sometimes you're looking at 3 different lines, and 2 of them are great, and 1 of them is really bad. But the only way to know that is to like forcibly brute through it, right? And like there's no saving grace where like you see something that might be like suspicious, and so you can stop calculating. Like in a puzzle, you can do that. In a real position, there are no puzzly tricks like that.
And also, like the way that the algorithmically produced puzzles, algorithmically selected puzzles on Lichess are, it's like every other move is like equal, and then there's one win, and it's just so much messier than that. And that's why I do recommend a lot of times getting calculation puzzles from a book or an article or something where it's selected, where it might be, oh, you have a few moves that give a slight advantage or something like that, and you have one that's a big advantage, and you need to calculate that. And that's a big part of what your practical decision making over the board is going to be. It's not always, I have a chance to literally make my opponent resign right now, or the game is drawn.
Yeah.
That happens, right? There are things like that, but usually it's not. Like usually in a real game, it's like you have an advantage, and you can calculate to get really large advantage and kind of get the game closer to its conclusion, or you have some moves that maybe keep the advantage or something like that, right? Like it's just very it's very different from an online chess puzzle. And also, like what you said earlier, where you're combining calculation and positional stuff, like that's what a lot of complex calculation does, is it's calculation to make positional decisions and to include positional decisions. It's not always just brute force winning of a piece like tactics are. Right, so calculation is kind of in that realm in between tactics and positional play, and it's harder than both, and it's also the most important thing, and it's just a big part of chess, and it's hard, and it's really important to do.
Yeah.
Who's from Hens to Heifers?
That's Amber. She can't get into her Twitch account.
Oh, okay. You ate before, right?
I did. I had some pretzels.
That's all.
I knew Amber was roasting the pork, so I didn't have a huge dinner.
Oh, okay.
Because I'll definitely be eating at some point.
Streaming pigs. I thought you said steaming pigs at first, and I was like, what?
I'll be down at some point, Amber, but I'm not sure we're wrapping like immediately. So
yeah,
we'll probably in the next like 20-ish minutes, but not necessarily.
Book that you mentioned last time, Imagination and Chess, is the one. Yeah, that would be one. That's a very, very hard book, very, very hard example. You don't necessarily have to go to that extent, although that is a book you will get a lot of value off of.
I would recommend that mostly for like expert plus, maybe even master level players specifically. Something I really do recommend is like pawn endings. So like calculating like very complex like pawn endings. Like there are endgame books that have. There's one that I used to know that had like a lot of really good endgames for calculation puzzles, and it might have been one of Augard's books.
Well, this one probably was from his Excelling series, but I do have one from his more recent one around somewhere.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's actually, I have this one, Endgame Play. This is a harder book, but I've definitely gotten some value off of it. Do you let's actually see, you guys want to see Aaron try and calculate a pawn endgame?
Oh, God.
All right, pull up a lead chess board here. Really, I'll give you a couple of not so insane ones. All right, we've got a white pawn on A2.
Yep.
We've got a white pawn on D3. We got a white pawn on G3. We got a white king on G2.
Okay.
We have a black pawn on A5. We have a black pawn on D4. We have a black pawn on G6. G6. We have a black king on H6. And it is white to move and it is to win. Now, when I did this one, I actually got it slightly quickly, but I think I just kind of chanced on the right idea, kind of right at the start.
Okay.
So you could get this quickly, or you might have to go through a little bit of a process to use some elimination and get to it. So it's white to move and win.
Fascinating. My first thought. So there are a couple of first thoughts. There's can I play King F3 to E4 and just like scoop and win the race? There's can I play G4 and like stuff the king and say that he's like in a bad spot. Those are the two candidate moves that pop out. There might be stuff like playing A4. Seems probably like just counterintuitive to do that. There's also maybe some universe where I play King F3 first, then King G5, and I play G4. But then like King H4, King F. Okay. Let's actually look at this real quick. So King F3, King G5. If you do anything, King G5 is forced, right? Anything else loses. King F3, King G5, G4. If King H4, King F4, let's say A4, A3 just wins. Yeah.
I mean, King F3, King G5, G4.
Yep.
And then what was it? King H4?
King H4, King F4, A4, A3, G5 loses to King F5. King H3 loses to G5. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so King H3 we have to look at. King G5. King G5, King G3, okay. Okay, that's okay. So King H3 you have to look at here.
Feels like a draw, right?
Does feel like a draw. Okay.
Or a loss, actually. You might actually lose this. It's King G5, King G3, King G6, King
Yeah.
And King G5 might be a problem.
Okay, so
G4, now, I know that for those of you in the chat, you might not be following along sometimes, but that's the type this is what we talk about where hardness and visualization, right? Like you have to try and do this because during the game, hey, guess what? You don't get to move the pieces around.
Yeah. So that's why. So normally I would be doing arrows to like help you guys follow along and stuff, but like because it's a calculation puzzle, that would be kind of cheating.
Yeah.
Not that it actually even helps, but you know.
So you continue. So King F3, King G5, G4, or do you want to look somewhere else?
King H4.
King H4, King. I mean, unless you're inserting A4, maybe you're inserting A4, but A4 G5, right, and A3 A4, then you seem to lose, right? So
yeah.
For A3 A4, King F4, I guess just transposes.
Let's at least like rule this out, right? Like I'm doing the puzzle thing where I'm assuming that King F3 and just winning the race doesn't work because it's a puzzle. But
yeah, I will say a guard's pretty good at not making it like that obvious.
Yeah, so King F3, King G5, King D4, King G4 takes on D4 takes on G3. Boop 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 draw. Okay. So you can't just win the race, which makes sense. You cannot just win Mr. Race here. Grob it? I could grob it. Could play G4 here. So that's a good point too. Is let's go back to G4 first, which was like one of my first concepts. So the difference between G4 is that now after King G5 we have King G3, so he doesn't have H4 anymore. So I actually kind of thanks empty. So G4. Let's say King G5, King G3, King H6, King F4, Now we can stop calculating. It's game over. So g4, king g5 can't be correct. Wait a minute, isn't this, wait, okay, so g4, a4, a3, king g5, king g3.
G4, A4, A3, what are you saying? Oh, G4,
Okay.
A4, A3, king G, okay, yeah, I see, okay, G4,
Yeah.
A4, A3.
Like anytime a4 is inserted, we just play a3.
King G5, king G3.
King g3. If king f6, king f4, and we just win the pawn. Right, king e6 or king anywhere, and then we play king e4 and we take the pawn, and now we're much faster.
Mm-hmm.
If king h6, we go still king f4. If the king moves, we still play king e4. If the pawn moves, we still play king e4. This is all she wrote, right? So we just bingo bongo, boom boom, boom boom, and then bingo bongo. That's all she wrote.
So when I saw this position, I got kind of lucky because the first idea I looked at was G4 because I was really connected with this idea of like opposition.
Yeah.
So I was sort of like, well, I just want to get to G3 to meet the opposition. So I happened to look at this first for whatever reason.
Yeah, G4 is one of the first things I looked at too, but I think it's still correct to like in a practical game to look at these stuff first.
For sure. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, for whatever reason, I think subconsciously we have a slight difference. I always like to, for some reason, I didn't really think that it was fast. It just seems like a billion tempi to take the pawn, come back, and push. And I thought that it just didn't seem right. And I also like sometimes when opposition works, it works very easily and very cleanly, without much to calculate, without much to, you know what I mean? You just like win it. Like they don't even take the pawns, you just get their pawns or whatever. And nothing happens. So for whatever reason, I looked at G4 first. So that's more of a subconscious thing. So for me, the puzzle didn't end up being as much of a calculation puzzle because I kind of got a little lucky and I happened to see the right idea first. So Aaron did not, it was one of the first ideas he looked at. He checked something else first, but he still had a systematic method and he solved the position, right? So he used a good method and got there, and you know, it worked, right? So that was, I thought that was pretty good. So now here's another one that is, all right. So clear. Let me try and give one that's. Here's a this is an interesting one because I think it's deceptively simple. I've not done this one yet. Black pawn on a7.
Okay.
And there's a white pawn on b5. And there's a white pawn on b3. And there's a white king on a3. And there's a black king on f4.
F4. Yeah. Okay.
And it is white to move and win. So this is interesting because it looks awesome at first, right? You're so closer, you're going to win a pawn, and you're going to win. But we need to find the win here. Right,
yeah. So there are a few things. There's.
Fuck! I think I just went to the opposition thing again, and I think I might have got it, but what?
Yeah, I kind of want to play like b6 here and then king b4.
Okay, that's cool. I don't know if that works by 10.
Or even just king b4 first.
Well, if you go b6, a, b, king b4, king e5, king b5, king d4, king takes b6, king c3 takes the pawn. So you'd have to.
Yeah. Okay.
But then I go king c3 to b3, and I maintain contact with the pawn, so you can't take.
Okay, so king
b4 first, yeah.
King b4, king e5, king c5.
Right. This is what I looked at, and I have a hunch this is just. But there might be more to it.
Well, I mean, why is it not game over here though? Is my question.
That's what I don't understand either, right? Like that's why I was like, oh, king b4, king c5. Well, so probably black has some more resources. Like for example, when I go to c6, maybe there's king d4. And something like you're getting in behind the pawns, right? You go to c5, and when I take on a7, you take on b5, right? So king e5, king c5. The question is, if the king goes to
No,
e4,
no. Okay, so king e4, right? Like
right, then
we
we
just
play
play b6.
yeah, so we win. King e6, then we play king c6, and then black doesn't have time. King e5, king b7, king d4, king a7, king c5, king a6.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we got that one actually.
Yeah. Right. All right. That was a silly one.
Just plug in. Just let me make sure that that's the so that we're not maybe
Yeah.
we could be on crack. We're on.
We have been on crack before. Yeah.
Number 10. Yeah, so there's one other version. Watch this. So if king b4, king e4, what's the move?
King b4, king e4. Why king c4?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Right. I'm gonna flip a few more pages and get us a harder one.
All right.
All right. This one's got to be cool. This should be good. All right. Black pawn on a6.
Oh. Okay.
Black pawn on b5. Black pawn on f4, g5, and g6. Oh, so by the way, while you guys are in chat, if you guys have played any of the games that we recommended on our last episode, please let us know. Please let us know in the chat. Let us know in the Discord. We'd love to hear from you guys and your experience playing those games. If you enjoyed them, if you agree with our recommendations, or if you have anything to add about those games. There's a white king on d4.
Okay.
And as always, guys, we are happy to receive any recommendations for future topics.
Yeah, we're happy to talk about anything and everything.
Black king on e6. E6. Yeah. White's pawns on g4 and h3, and a3, b4, c3. C3. And this position is black to move, and it is to win.
Black to move and to win Zagam. Okay.
It's a hard one.
So my assumption is it's f3, right? My assumption is it's f3, king e3, king d5.
Something like that.
Takes my king c4. King e4, king takes.
Yeah.
King
Used to be
takes.
fast.
Takes.
Oh no, there. Okay, 3, king d5.
Yeah, and then we queen on a1, one tempo before he queens on h8, so we block his queen.
And so f3, king e3, king d5, king f3, king c4, king e4, king c3, king e5, king b3, king f6, king a3, king g5, king b4, h4, a5, h5, a4, h6, a3, h. I don't know if we're actually doing that, right? Because he doesn't take on g6 and then g5. He goes takes on g5 and goes h4, h5.
Oh, he takes on h. Okay, he takes on h5. Okay, we take on. There's h4. Right. Okay. Okay. If he does it that way, we go king c5 is the trick. Because then after. Oh no, I'm sorry, crazy. Okay, let's see. Okay, e4, e4. Fascinating. So this has to be the idea, right? F3, King E3, King D5 has to be the idea. There's no other concept.
Yeah, King 3. Yeah, I was trying to see if there was some fancy King E5, and then there's like a way to like shove the king, something. After King 3, King E5, King F3, King C4, King E4. Maybe no. No, I thought I had something, but it doesn't. King C3, King E5. Wow. This is a hard one.
This is a hard one.
So is there something fancy before we play F3? Like King D6, King E4? It doesn't really seem to be the case, right? Sad. F3, King E3. Oh, wait. F2. No, that's stupid. Is F2 any idea at all? Yeah, it is. Yeah, F3.
Oh, it is an idea. You're right. Yeah.
Takes F2, and then we go King
E5.
Yeah, E5.
No, D5.
Yeah, D5, King E3, King. Yeah, but then King E5.
That's not an idea. This is not working.
Yeah, that sucks. Huh. This is a brutal one.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
I don't even. So this is probably representing, guys, an interesting error in calculation where we're struggling to find a new idea or a new candidate move. It's not that like we looked at this idea with F3 and just went right through it, right? That was okay, but we're struggling to come up with a new concept here, right?
Is there any universe this is a triangulation puzzle?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't think there's a way to do it, right? Because I don't think King D6, King E4, King E7, allowing King E5 makes sense, or King D7, King C5. You're just asking. King D7, the king can't go forward, right? So King E4 has to be played. Then there's King D6, King D4, King E6, King E4. Something like that, right? Yeah, maybe you are right. Maybe it could be a calculation puzzle because black actually has some free reign here. So you could actually go king.
So I wrote King E7 here.
Right. Yeah, you should go King E7, King E4.
Then King D6, then King D4, King C6.
And King E4? And what did we actually get?
Nothing. Literally nothing. King E7, King E4.
I don't know what we do. Oh, okay. King D6, King E4, King C6, King D4, King B6, King E4, A5. B5, King A5, King D4, King B6, King E4, King C6, King D4, F3, King E3, King D5, King F3, King C4. We're promoting faster.
You're right.
What we should check is King D6, King E4, King C6, King D4, King B6, C4, and make sure that that's not working.
Yeah.
F3, King E3, King B5, King E3, King A4, King F3, King A3, King E4, King B4. Yeah, we're way too fast. Wow.
Yeah.
So once we got the concept that the black king had freedom of motion and the white king didn't, we found a new adjustment to our original idea. I bet that's it. I hope that's it.
Wait, okay. So King D6, did we look at C4?
C4 immediately? I thought we were going to go take and F3.
That does the win. That just wins. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yep. Perfect.
All right. Let's see. This was a variation that could have occurred in a non-Knosky Sophia, apparently. Ooh. No, hold on.
I'll be right back. I have to go say hello to a small child. Hello, Cordelia. Hello, Cora. Good night, baby girl. Good night, Cora. I know. Good night. Good night, baby. Bye-bye. Was I right?
So were you right?
Yeah, me. It was all me. Why? 100%.
Wait, pop on in the announce board. I feel like this one might be one where there's two solutions because it like line gives kind of transposes to a line. Yeah, just pop that engine on.
Oh, whoops. Shit. I can't. We have to make this black to move.
Mm-hmm.
And analysis board here.
Just Adobe says best move is to resign. Oh, thank you very much.
Always resign.
So the solution he gives is A5.
A5. There's many moves here.
But it's all with the same concept. So we were right. We can do the same thing, right? So King D6, yeah. Right, and it's the same thing. It transposes with the line with A5. Okay, you can play A5 first. It's fine. Yeah. So what we'll play out, guys. This is a funny little thing with computers. Go back to the original position.
Oh, we can't play A5 here?
No, you can't play A5 here, right?
Oh, yeah. right, because I'm an idiot. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you might have missed one of those. Yeah, you have to insert F3 at some point. Yeah. So if you go into the original position, it'll show King F6 is winning because it doesn't change the position, guys, right? So it's not like, oh, King F6 was the correct solution. Like that's not true. It's because King F6, King E4, King E6, you just go back. Right, it just repeats, right? Like it just doesn't change anything. So it's not like, oh, King F6 was the idea and that won the game. So let's show the line. Let's go King D6 and King E4 and playing A5, right? Yeah. So this is what we kind of had. Yeah, either way, or King C6 or however.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's all the same.
Do it. Yeah. Yeah, that was it. That was a fun one. So
yeah,
got some value out of some puzzles.
Yeah, and this pawn is too strong.
So there's an interesting. This is interesting. Oh, here's a funny little. Actually, would love to show this to you guys. There's a white pawn on H5 and there's a black pawn on H6. Oh, H5. Sorry, my bad. H5 and sorry, I just got out of the. And then there's a black king on G4. And there's a black bishop on B4, and there's a white king on D4.
What's on D4?
A king, a white king.
A white king, white.
And this is it, and it's black to move. And if F3 immediately, unless F3 was working according to the thing, and there was a transposition, then the king gets there in time to wrap up the F pawn. So basically, we just lose multiple tempi. Because when we bring the king over to C6 first, the king just has to waste time with E4 and D4, right? When we play F3 immediately, white has time to recover the pawn and then get his counter.
Is this not the position?
Oh, so I'm answering to Megan Heitman's question about.
I see.
So this is interesting. This theoretical ending could have come up in your game, or a very small version could have come up in a variation of your game with Max from the RJM Invitational.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But this is one he gave in this book, and so I was like, oh, this is interesting. So if black simply takes the H pawn, white will run the king over to the corner and will draw because the bishop is not able to kick the king out of the corner, right? It's a known, very weird draw. Right. So if white, and also this is black to play as well. If white were to move he would probably go king e3. Is this one black? Yeah, it's black to move. Yeah. So if black just simply takes on h5, white has enough time to get to the corner.
Oh, we can take a look real quick, Hype Man. We'll show you what we're talking about.
Yeah, white made it in enough time to
oh crap.
to
let's clear this. Let's clear the board here.
yeah, black pawns on f4, g5, and g6.
Oops.
Black pawns on a6 and b5. Yep, and those black king on e6, and white king on d4. No, d4.
Oh, it's d4 here. You're right. You're right. Black to play and analysis board. So this is the variation, Hype Man. So after f3, king comes in here. Comes in here.
Oh, king e4 is simpler. Let's
Oops, king e4. Sorry, I don't know why I did that actually.
Either one's a solution, but yeah. The problem is white gets enough time.
We take this one
by taking that one.
We play h4.
H4.
Right. So this is actually crushing.
Sadly, yes. So black would have had to have played king c5 or something and gone back to draw somehow.
This is the issue is that white is just faster here.
Yeah. Now, at first, let's go back a few moves to move 6 of the variation, right after king takes a3. Originally, when calculating, I think we looked at king takes g6 was looked at first.
Right. We looked at we looked at this one, or even here, and then takes this one first.
Right.
And now
it's a little bit different, right? Because white gets a situation where he's going to it's going to be like the pawns there. Well, no, that loses.
He has this one. Yeah.
You have the other pawn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll promote at the same time, and then like it's a drawn queen ending, basically.
Yeah. Bingo, swingo. And then you win the pawn, and it's actually a win, or a very complicated draw. At least
something that was not supposed to be clicked. Was there something wrong? Can you go back? Yeah, you want to put the
king h7. Yeah, king h7 is playable.
Yeah.
And we draw.
And the sad part is sometimes you're going to have games where you have to look at variations like this.
Yeah.
And when you do this and your opponent can't do this, that's a half a point or a full point.
Or a full point sometimes, yeah.
But
yeah, it's brutal to lose these types of games empty, where like you can't queen, like you're one tempo short and then you lose.
So let's go back to this one with the black kings on g4.
Yeah.
d4, yeah, and black bishop on b4. b4, yeah. Cool. Nice. It's black to move, and it is black to move and win. So the problem is king h5, king e3, white gets into the corner.
I'm assuming this is king f4. But I'm not sure.
I believe it's.
Oh no! Oh, is this what I think it is? Is this bishop c5 check?
Yes. I'm trying to calculate bishop c5, king e4. Oh, you just make a move and then the king has to go to d3 or d5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that sick?
Yeah.
Well, no. There's still that doesn't work, does it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Does it?
Well, put in black to play also, and don't have the computer on.
I'm trying to turn that off here. Oh, it's white to play. That's why I can't make the move.
Yeah, you don't have to make move. You can just discuss it.
You can just discuss it. All right. Bishop c5, king d3, like king takes h5, or no, yeah, king takes h5.
Yeah, you get the king to g3 in time, and you create a barrier on g1 and g2.
King e2, king g4, king f1, king g3. You're right. You're right.
Cool.
Why did the computer say it was drawn though?
Because you had a white to move.
Because I had a white to move. Right. Okay.
I will say I've had some computers that have had a freaky thing in these positions. Sorry, it's fine. I think everyone kind of got that.
No. I don't think that's likely. Hang on, d4.
But the point is, guys, doing these puzzles without moving the pieces, without visualizing. I mean, we'll show you guys just to show you guys, but trying to do these on your own without moving any of the pieces and really visualizing in your head is going to help.
Jesus, freaking Jesus. So the point is, first of all, we can't take the bishop because we just block the king like this. We just make the big old shoulder thing. The bishop isn't actually hanging. So the king is trying to like squeeze around into the corner here. So we take the pawn, and then we have this one, and the bishop and the king form a nice little net here, where the king can't cross.
Show it if black makes a mistake and allows white to get another corner, and explain why that's a draw.
Fair point, right? Let's say that white takes this right away. White just gets
King
right.
E3
actually not working.
King E3 has to be played.
This is forced.
There we go. H5, something.
Yeah,
like
sure.
That. Yeah. King G2, H4, King H1. And it looks really good for black at first, but it's just a draw. Yeah. There's no way to get the king out of the way. You move the bishop or something, and it could be, like H2.
You push this pawn here, and now Mr. King is Mr. Stuck.
Yeah.
You can't, if it's were a light square bishop, you can control the square, but because it's a dark square bishop, you can't.
And if you give a check on c5 and white goes back to h1, well,
then you can't make a move because it's stalemate. Yeah. Unless you come back here and then make no progress.
Yeah. There's no way to force the king to leave without making it a stalemate.
Yep. All right.
Right. So that's a very cool one.
That was a really sweet one, actually.
So if somebody is looking to do some calculation puzzles, you recommended Timon's Art of Analysis and doing the Kotov method if someone wants to do the Kotov method. What if someone doesn't want to do the Kotov method? Just looking for some run-of-the-mill calculation training. Any recommendations for that? Books?
Algard's excelling at chess calculation does have some good calculation puzzles. They're I used to have a good compendium of these, actually.
What do you have on your shelf right now?
What do I have on my shelf? That's good. Give me 1 second.
Who's in chat right now? Who's lurking? Didn't get to see Gabe tonight. That's sad. I know he likes the podcast, so that sucks. For next time, guys, we'll be a little bit better about giving you guys a clear schedule ahead of time and letting you guys know. We were kind of a little hectic this week. Oh, Aaron, did you want to share your news on this stream, or did you want to wait for one of your regular ones?
Oh. Looks like I don't actually have many things that are great for calculation training on my bookshelf immediately here.
Yeah, so Aaron told me the news earlier, but Aaron, did you want to share your news on this stream, or did you want to wait till one of your personal streams?
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. I purchased a house. I bought a house thing, like for people to like live in, which was pretty cool. Like it was my first house, so I was very excited about that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I didn't want to steal. I don't know. I just I wasn't sure when to say it, but like.
Yeah.
So I'll be moving into that next month.
Next month?
Next month.
Early in the month or in the late of the month?
The closing date is the 12th, but the inspections next week. Or I guess this week we'll figure out when and stuff to do the stuff and things.
So where exactly is it? Same town?
It's in Shapley. It's same town. It's like 10 minutes up the road.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
10 minutes closer to Portland or 10 minutes further from Portland?
About
It's tangential to Portland.
about 7 minutes farther from Portland.
Oh, okay.
Which is a little unfortunate, but like it's 7 minutes.
Yeah, whatever. Well, that's cool. You'll still be in the same area.
Same area. Get to see my friends and stuff. Yeah, Amber's gonna help me paint the place.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
You have friends around there?
I've got Patrick and Amber who I live with, and I've got my sisters pretty close-ish.
I was just making.
You're making a joke that I don't have friends in general. I understand. I understood, and I was trying to deflect.
Oh well, I saw Amber at the fair.
Did you really?
No, not really. But if I did see her there, she would have said, "Yeah, you know what? Look, we tell Aaron he's a friend." Aaron's just a farm animal at heart. He's just another animal that she's raising, and now you're off on your own.
Exactly. Yeah. This was. Yeah. I'm basically just a goat who's being let into the wild.
You were there to grow some crops and help out with the farm, and now you've matured.
Yeah.
And
I'm ready to let my children have my cow milk or whatever.
Well, let me know if you need any help moving anything at all or something, because Bill would come down too. So, because it seems like Amber and Patrick are about as busy as they can be in general. So, if you guys need additional help, please let me or someone else know.
No, I know. I appreciate that. I think we'll probably be okay. But
probably be okay. Yeah.
Yeah, do appreciate that.
I wasn't sure because with fall harvest or something. I don't know. I mean, I know.
No, I mean, everyone's busy in general, but we'll find time. Like three of us can. Like I don't have a lot of belongings to move either.
Oh yeah.
I've got a bed we'll need help with, but I'm sure like we can find time to make 10 minutes up the road together.
Yeah. Cool. Somebody just screeched their car out into a.
You should have displayed me at the fair. Exactly. Yeah, I should have been like at the petting zoo. Should have been in the cage.
Oh, that's funny.
Little kids like putting sour cream on their hands so I can eat it off.
Stop with the sour cream thing. This is getting bizarre. Like, you guys are the animal kind of farm, right? Not really the.
Yeah, mostly Patrick's got a garden that he like kind of tends to, but mostly it's the animal stuff and the marijuana.
Try living with the sour cream thing. God, sounds bizarre. It's just like freaking weird.
Oh, man. It's so good, dude. Oh,
stupid.
Can you even imagine like just the sour creaminess like sliding down your throat?
Oh, sounds gross.
So good.
It's like a suppressed like desire that like is manifesting as sour cream. I don't know. There's something going. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know how to diagnose this. This is where like you not studying chess psychology is becoming a problem, Wyatt. There's a whole nipple thing. I don't even know what you're putting sour cream on your nipple?
No, unrelated. Patrick and I have like a nipple war thing where like we try to like Patrick used to like he likes to be shirtless, so I like tweak his nipples, and he tweaks my nipples, and like we nipple each other a lot.
It's like something I do with my boyfriend, Aaron.
It's a whole process.
What? So this is why you have to leave, because you were just too much competition for Patrick. Amber just needed you. You guys were bonding too much over nipples.
It was never gonna work.
Oh, it's like it's World War III. It's like aggressive nipples.
It's crazy, dude. It's like we get in there.
Yeah, Mr. Swifticle, we had a fantastic like chess improvement episode, and then we went to sour cream and nipples.
It always happens. Something always goes wrong. What's up, Ranch?
I play one of my closest friends I play golf with. And when we're out golfing, we like to take the golf club and slap each other on the calf.
What? That's way worse.
With the handle, not the club end. You just take
okay.
getting out of it, just walking up to hit the ball, slap it. Long story short, it's really painful to play golf. You learn to improve from cheese. Impossible. Is Mr. Swift Tickle the one who's high rated? I always forget who. There's a couple of people you have in here who are like 2,300 plus. Like I know Gabe is, but like
No, Swift Tickle. I think 1,800-ish Leechess.
Oh, okay, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, 1,800, 1,900 if I'm remembering.
I never. As I said, I'm horrible with names and I'm great with faces. And when it's online, I don't see anyone's faces. I just don't know who anyone is. It's kind of. Oh, he's a strong 600. Okay, all right. But we need to say, well, that's good that he is going to be nearby. You know, that's really awesome. He'll be kind of that up the road uncle for the children.
Yeah. They need their uncle.
So you said it's 800 square feet plus a finished basement.
It's actually like 1,100 square feet. I was just like crazy. I was looking at the wrong house.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah,
800 is small.
I looked at a house that was like half an acre, but it was 800 square feet, and that was the one that I was thinking of when I said that.
Okay. So basically, this one wasn't that. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So this has like a finished basement and everything too. So you have some decent space.
Well, I wouldn't say a finished basement. It's like it's a usable basement for some things. Like I can like put a workout room down there or something. I wouldn't like put most things down there, but we'll see. I'll finish it at some point.
Yeah. He has a private beach. What?
Private-ish. Yeah, it's shared with a few houses.
Mr. Swiftcicle, I believe we actually did this puzzle on stream once. We transferred the knight to A3, and the king had to go to H3, and then you played like it was like knight H4 or something to get to F5 or something.
Yeah, we did do this one once. Yeah.
Yeah. I think right. What was it that happened? Right, the knight went to A3. The knight went to, or did you had to get to A3 so the knight could go to B1 to D2 to F1.
Yeah. So the knight goes to H4, right? Was the thing?
Yeah, that's the point, right?
Yeah, so the knight goes
A3 to C2 to E1 to G2 to H4. Sorry, I was miscalculating where the knight was going. Yeah, A1 C2 1 G2 H4 knight F5.
Oh,
King H4. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you go king D1, king knight C1, knight E2, knight G1, knight H3, knight F2, knight D. How do you get there again?
Hold on. Wait, okay. We have to resolve this puzzle. Are you kidding me?
No, C1, E2. Well, we have the concept in general, so it's G1, H3, F2, D1, B2.
But what?
Or I don't know.
This doesn't do it. This doesn't cut the butter.
We're back to that phrase. Okay. We were over that phase.
Why? Why would you think that?
Yeah, I'm using it a couple weeks. I got hopeful.
Meow. So we want to get to H4 is the thing, right? We want to get to H4.
Yeah, we get to so the ways get to. I'm just trying to. I don't know how we're getting to. Oh, do we go to G? Like is there another way to do it? Like where it's knight C1, the knight literally has to go to E2. The knight literally has to go to G1. Has to go to H3, which has to be F2.
Wait a minute. What's this shit? How did we do this before?
The thing is, the second part is actually really easy now that we know all the thing. But like, I'm trying to figure out how the hell we're getting the knight to A3.
Yeah, I feel like this was the easy part last time, but
maybe you guys just miscalculated something.
I don't think so. I think that didn't happen.
Well, I was thinking that you bring the knight to b5 and a3, knight a4, knight b6, knight d5, knight c7, knight b5, knight a3, right? Maybe that's what happened with Zugzwang with the king. Yeah, that just works.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Because you go to c7, you can't actually shuffle between a6 and b6 is important. So
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Right, there's no.
Meow.
Are you feeling sick at all, Aaron? Ooh, so raising your sick?
I am feeling sick. Yeah, Cora. I was playing with Cora aggressively yesterday, and she's very sick.
Who's Cora? Oh, the daughter.
This child.
Oh, the child. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool. I love the illness.
What is it? Do you know what it is?
It's probably leprosy. I'm probably not long for this world, Wyatt. No, it's probably just a cold.
Like RSV sometimes goes around this time. There's some dumb baby. Wow, that's really interesting. He manifested the illness for himself.
I did. I knew she was sick. I could have just walked away. Could have just walked away.
Or maybe she wasn't sick and you got her sick.
Yeah, probably not.
Dysentery? Wow, that's kind of brutal.
That's the one. Yeah, I'm gonna shit myself.
Maybe it's RSV. I'm gonna lose one. Yeah. What is it? You can't do anything on the black side because Stockfish Shape is too good at guarding both e7 and f6. So say use king 7, a3. So you use something on the king side, like g3 or something is.
How do I from position here?
Asparov. I'm sorry, I don't think I've ever met this person before.
You've never met Asparov? I find that unlikely.
No, I don't remember this. Yeah. No, I wasn't. There was a time where you were streaming for a while where I just was never around. Yeah. No, put it on level 8. You got to put it on level 8. Well, no, we want to make sure.
Oops.
And you also challenged it to a freaking correspondence game too, or something, right? What is going on? There we go. Yeah. Time control, real time. Yeah.
We want to be black here?
Yeah, I guess. No, we want to be white. Yeah. Well, he's saying it somehow defends e7 and f6 or something. I don't really know. Right, I thought yeah, so you just Zugzwang. Yeah. Check.
And then we give the checker-rooney. And then we slide this way, right?
Yeah. Well, make sure you can. Yeah, okay. I guess that still works no matter how you do it. Yeah. I want to take it.
Wait, does it? Okay, no.
Why did you that way? What's he doing here? You lunatic. Yeah, go back. Work the puzzle. Oh, no.
ROL.
Yeah, G2, and then bring the king all the way to H3. Yeah. No, not yet.
Why not?
I don't know. I guess it's fine. But... No, because he takes it and then he brings the king to H4 or something. Is he faster?
Do I lose this?
What are you doing? Oh, I guess it's fine. I guess it's okay. It's so fine how you do it without any preparation.
Why?
H4. It's like wow.
I looked like it was working, so I did it.
Yeah. What? Well, what? No. Now it's yeah, it's fine. It's winning. Cool. Because there's no triangulation. There we go.
Oh, wait.
No, G5. G5 works. G5 works.
We'll see. I'll have to do this
I'm
again.
gonna repeat. I'm gonna give him a 3-fold. Cool. Yeah. Do it. King H4, King
We
F6,
do G5 here.
No. King H4, King F6, G5, H5, King G4, King G7, King G5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's over. even you can win this. No.
Oh.
There we go. It's gotta be. What are you doing? It's still somehow by some miracle. It's all gonna be okay. Well, why'd you take the pawn? Take a B3. Take a B. Just take a B3. Just take it would be no problem for a kind of pilot here was a little. What is happening? Dude, C3, come on. Yeah, no. Productive endgame resources. Oh my! The technique. The technique. This is amazing. I can do it stalemate.
We got him, dude. We got him. Look at this shit. Oh, easy peasy. High caliber chest right there.
What? Oh my god. This another puzzle for Aaron's technique here. Oh my god. Yeah, what's funny is you actually like if those you like textbook converted that queen versus pawn thing. If the
yeah. I the other pawns were just in the way, dude. Fuck that.
Oh my gosh. Oh. So no, I don't think I've actually ever met Asparov.
He's have you heard of the famous chess player Kasparov?
Yeah.
He's like that, but
is that what the pun is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you just took 600 milligrams of edibles. Oh, okay.
Oh my god. 600?
Is
Get
it
ready to get wrecked.
the edible or is it the actual active ingredient, the 600 mil? Well, 600 milligrams wouldn't be very big, right?
600
Probably was the active ingredient, yeah.
Yeah.
600 is low.
That's insane. I did an edible yesterday just for fun. I took 5 milligrams and I was out, dude. Mr.
Wait, what?
Messed up.
5 and he's thinking 600?
Yeah.
No.
That's insane. That's so intense. That's you're gonna have a trip, dude.
Well, okay.
Man. What? I can't even imagine doing 2K. That's absurd, dude.
I'm a 0 milligram guy, Max.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
What? Oh yeah. That's just me on a normal day. Just couch, washing hands randomly. What the hell?
Yeah. He never knows where he is.
I had the weirdest problem last night. Just kept turning off and giving me a spinning wheel. It was awful. Oh, I had the weirdest dream.
What was your dream?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Times were technically the worst bullet chess anyone has ever seen. I've seen some really bad bullet chess by myself as well. Like, it's bullet chess is just bad. You know what I mean?
It is bad chess, yeah.
Yeah, like that's the thing that you got to say, like with chess, like when you're playing bullet, doesn't really matter. Play the U-1500 Rapid Arena.
Where's the Ultra Bullet?
Oh, okay. Sorry to our audio-only listeners. None of this entire podcast has made any freaking sense.
Yeah, I know. Like you got like the first half of a. Oh, we got a challenge here for Mr. Swift. 3-0.
3-0.
That's way too slow.
Yeah, what was going on here? All right.
We're gonna play it like it's Ultra Bullet.
The thing is with online cheating algorithms is like, how the fuck is it supposed to be accurate if half the time you're actually like drunk or high?
Right?
Like what? Like people are so overestimating how accurate that shit is. Like no, people screw around online so bad. I do long things to bullet to psych my opponents out. Yeah, that's cool. And probably also bad. Oh, okay. Here we go. Oh gosh, this is good. Oh, whoa. Oh, brutal. Oh, this is brutal. Oh my god, the quickness, the speed. Hey, are you aware that John Curdo passed away?
Did he really? Oh, I didn't hear that.
30th, yeah.
That's too bad.
Yeah, he was like 96 or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely time, but like it's too bad. GG, Mr. Swift.
You guys just played a bullet game. That was.
Well, I know, we literally did play a bullet game.
Oh my gosh. We're going to that hyper bullet arena. I want to see some Aaron Spencer hyper bullet.
Hyper bullet, dude. I'm a solid 1500 hyper bullet.
Oh, okay. That's just pretty good, actually. Yeah. Ultra bullet ratings are quite low. I think I'm like 1400. So really bad. I'm awful. I think everyone's awful at hyper bullet.
Nobody's good. It's just it's garbage.
Like nobody's. I bet the highest rated person in this arena is like, because I think like the ratings.
We got 600. We're gonna berserk this guy.
We're gonna berserk and. It's insane. Oh my god, he plays the Berlin still. Still playing the Berlin. Oh my god. Oh yeah. See, you kept two pieces hanging. Good calc.
Got him.
Yes. Oh my god. 7 seconds left.
Dude, I'm flying him so hard.
That was bizarre.
Like everything was a free move there.
Not half a second. That's crazy. Oh, you're already in the top 20 with one game. Damn. See, but look what I'm saying. Like everybody's rating is like 1100 or 1300.
I know, this is really crazy how low everybody is.
Yeah.
Oh, this guy's 1900. Yeah, 1900 ultra bullet, but he's like 1400 rapid. Good for him. Not zerking this guy.
Whoa, what the fuck?
Don't worry too much about it. It's all gonna work.
Wait, you're not zerking this guy, but you zerked him?
No, I'm just low. I'm just slow.
Oh, I really thought you zerked it. Oh, okay. You were so fast in the first game. I didn't expect that you might spend more than 2 seconds.
It's so hard. Like when you
once you start slipping or something, it's really bad, right? And then it's just once you don't really have a rhythm. Yeah, like here, like
be one position where like you're fucked.
Yeah. Whoa, you almost fucking flagged him.
I got the speed back. Whoa, it was too late.
Holy crap. Wow, you're so fast with the mouse now. All the streaming over the pandemic. You just like
I know.
Crazy.
Something happened. My brain got slower, my hand got faster.
You were like, whoa. Who Who has the quickest hands you've ever seen over the board in chess? I asked. I think I didn't ask Brian Hurst this, but he mentioned this to me. Steve Abrams. He
Steve
said,
is fast as hell, dude. Yeah,
the craziest. And would you say that that's it? That's.
I agree. I agree 100%. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Oh, good move. Good move.
Yeah.
That's a great move.
Really good
We
move.
couldn't go back to F7.
Oh god.
By 0.04 seconds. What? Oh no.
That's dumb. That's dumb.
Yeah, this is great chess, by the way. All right, let's do one more, then call it. We'll Zerk this guy back. Okay.
Oh, time. Oh no. Oh, that was good.
Oh my god, he's so fast.
Ugh.
All right, that was Ultra Bullet. GG.
So, do you have a name for your house yet?
Yeah, I'm gonna call it Holiday House.
Oh, that's cool. Is that
No, I don't actually have a name for it. I just got that from a Taylor Swift song.
Oh, okay. So she's not doing the Super Bowl? Is that what we determined?
I think that's not the key. Yeah, I think she's not, unfortunately.
And who's doing it? Rihanna?
Rihanna, yeah.
Or are they gonna have multiple people like they did last time?
Who knows? You know, maybe they're like gonna surprise us.
Fire truck. That's really cool. I think Rihanna is gonna do awesome.
She is a tremendously talented person. Yeah.
She's a fantastic singer. She has so many good songs. That'd be really exciting. Super Bowl. Who's gonna be in the Super Bowl this year?
I think it's Steelers versus Giants or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Steelers win. Yeah, I don't follow football enough. Does anyone here follow football? Is that not really? This isn't really the group that's kind of a football group. You know, chess stream.
Oh, I mean, like Hype Man's a boxing guy. I think like if people follow boxing, why wouldn't they follow football? You know.
Well, there is chess boxing as a sport, so I feel like boxing is pretty related to chess.
That's true. Yeah, it does have similarities.
Yeah, I mean, it's. Have you guys seen chess boxing?
It is kind of interesting. Yeah,
it's just like people punching each other and then playing chess, and then oof. You watch Jamaican fight him and watch his football. It's cool. What team do you root for? Where's he from? I don't know where Jamaica. Texas? Are you from Texas?
Well, he's from Jamaica, but he's in Texas right now.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like
yeah.
The area that he's from. Yeah. So Houston Texans or something? Is that the team? Or the Dallas Cowboys?
There's the Dallas Cowboys and the Houston Texans right now. Yeah.
Are either of those your favorite team, or do you prefer a different team? Chess boxing match. Well,
yeah. I watched that Hype Man.
He sent you a match to watch. I thought he sent you like a challenge or something.
No, yeah. I'm going down to Texas and gonna do crap at Hype Man. I would actually be terrified to play Hype Man in a chess boxing match.
Yeah, you know the thing is, half the people here in New England watch Tampa Bay now because that's where Brady is.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's interesting.
They weren't actually like Patriots fans; they were Brady fans.
Oh, see, the thing is, Brady left and then New England started sucking. So everyone was like, well, this guy was like the figurehead of the team for a billion years. So, like, we like him. Like,
yeah.
He's the one who really provided a lot of the Super Bowls, right? There's a lot of men up here have like a really serious, like, love for the quarterback of the football teams.
Yeah, it's true.
People actually love Tom Brady. And then the new guy, what's his name? Mac Jones. They're just like, whew.
They just love his deflated balls, you know? I just love that.
It's inflated. No, it's deflated, I guess.
Yeah.
It was Deflategate.
Deflategate was the thing. Yeah.
What a bizarre thing. Deflating the balls. And that makes it better.
Yeah, for some people, I guess.
Oh, you guys should make footballs with your pigskins.
That's true. Yeah. Oh my God, we should do that right now. We should just like go out into the yard and just blow them up. That's what you do with them, right? You just like blow up a pig.
That would make a really big football.
Yeah.
Imagine that football, but it's like 8 feet wide football. So you just like it's like crushing you.
Yeah, that'd be a really good game.
So you know those like plastic ball things, like things that you get inside of, like they're inflatable.
Yep.
There was somebody in Russia who actually died because they were on a mountain in that thing and then they rolled down a mountain.
Well, yeah, you probably shouldn't be on a mountain in those things.
I just saw this and I saw this video and I was just like, they just rolled off the mountain. And unfortunately, it wasn't enough cushioning of the fall with the inflatable thing.
Well, yeah, because it's a mountain.
But a mountain, is a triangle.
I know. Like, imagine like if you fell out of a plane in one of those things. Like,
you'd be fine. Cushions. No. Oh, I watched another crazy video of these people who collided while air gliding.
Yeah.
Like those parasails or whatever. Not like the gliders, but like the actual parachutes. And they got all tied up and they were like falling. And somehow they got an emergency one off.
Wow.
Crazy.
That is pretty crazy.
Because
shit happens in the world, man.
Yeah. Zorb Ball, thank you. I knew that they were named something like that.
Named after Richard Zorb.
Really?
Oh, I don't know. Probably not. There's probably not a guy named Richard Zorb.
Did you ever meet or play John Curto?
Never. No, neither one. I just heard of him because he's,
Yeah. So in case anyone here does not know, John Curto held the world record, or holds the world record for the most number of chess tournaments ever won. Like with 980 or something, or like did he get to 1,000? Like very.
It might have been just under 1,000, I think. Yeah.
So when someone's like, "Oh, they won like 1,000 tournaments," it's like literally 1,000 tournaments.
Yeah.
So
which is insane. Like it's insane to play in 1,000 tournaments, let alone win 1,000 tournaments.
I bet you've played in 180 or something.
I probably played like a couple hundred tournaments.
I've won. I think I've won 35 tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
But
so I've won 180. You've won 35.
I wonder how many.
I've never played a tournament that I didn't win, actually.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah.
I wonder how many you actually have.
Oh.
Roger Morin was like, I think, estimated to be like over 200. I mean, granted, he held some tournaments in his house, like multiple.
Yeah, it does help a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. These are quads and stuff. Do you have stats around here somewhere that you're finding?
Yeah, I'm seeing how many events I've played.
Oh, how do you see that?
Let's see here.
I can see games I've played. I mean, you could like extrapolate, like divide by basically 4 or something. You
go to tournament history. I've played in 158 games, or 158 tournaments.
You go to oh yeah. I know exactly where you're going now. I'm sorry. I'm just crazy. Yeah. What have I done? If you're right there.
Let me find you real quick.
So I'm probably in one of the recent tournaments you played.
Yep. Tournament history, 181.
How many did you play?
158.
I played more tournaments than you?
Yeah.
Well, I played a lot like when Mike was running like the evening Swisses and stuff too. I mean, those, but I played like a lot of little ones, I guess.
Yeah, you played in a lot of those. I also took like a long break, and you played while I was like broken. Yeah.
That's cool. And so you've won a third of them or something like that?
I won probably. How do you see how many you've won?
I don't think there's data for that. I had to do it by hand when I've done any calculations of someone.
Let's see here.
Pretty sure FIDE might have better records when you have FIDE events. I don't know if US Chess does. I wish they would. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so okay, I've won. Yeah, I've won 86% of mine.
We're going to play some Hand and Brain. Someone is suggesting.
Probably not, Ovi. Probably we're close to wrapping.
Yeah. I say I think we're near the end of the night rather than the beginning.
I know. I'm sorry, homie. I'm sorry.
I mean, Aaron could take his hand and like. Put
I could show you Hand the Brain real quick.
Trying to set my
that was a powerful blow.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was supposed to be a podcast, and like we stopped podcasting like a little while ago.
Well, we did some chess that was non-podcast, so now we're back to talking, which I guess is podcasting.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. This podcast has no real definitions or boundaries.
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
It's whatever it wants to be.
It is, yeah. We could. I mean, it could be Hand and Brain, but not. I think now, just because I'm getting tired.
Oh, not the literal taking. Literal taking. So, like, as in taking, as in interpretation taking, or talking.
Talking.
Talking. E4, E5, King E1, stepping off the board to hide black resigns. King to negative E1. I've got an idea for you. What if it was called E0?
Wow.
Because that's one less than one.
Yeah, that could work.
Unless you want to define E0 as like this little boundary in between that. E0 is kind of hiding.
It is too easy to see, right? Yes.
Why are we going to a little farther? E negative 12?
Because the king's only so fast, Wyatt.
I was in class the other day, and somebody was saying, like, we were doing set theory or something a few weeks ago, and like something was like saying, "Oh, this is an element of the set," and then one of the kids like raised his hand, and then the professor said, "What's that?" And he like corrected the professor. He said something like, "Technically, that's not true because we didn't define 3 as an integer."
Oh my god!
Get the hell out of here! King got small legs.
King does have small legs. Yeah. Have you ever seen those legs? Because I haven't. That's how small they are.
You've not seen the small legs of the king?
No.
So E to negative E1 is the perfect spot. That's what we've determined.
I think that's the case.
Oh, think Tyrion, like from the show. I didn't.
Yeah. Game of Homes.
Well, guys, for next time, we will try and be a little bit, give you guys more heads up of when we're going to be doing the podcast. We were kind of a little hectic this week, and we've been quite delayed.
Yeah, it's been some stuff's been going on for both of us. Whatever. We'll get back into it. We'll give you some energy. We'll give you some high octane content for the next podcast.
Yeah. So as usual, guys, if you have any suggestions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Aaron or I. You can even do that right in the Discord. That's one of the most convenient ways to do it. If you have any questions or want any more information about the podcast, you can obviously contact us, but you can also check out our website at theunderthemoonpodcast.com or Google site /underthemoonpodcast.com. Our YouTube has been linked a few times in the chat. Maybe link that again. Under the Moon podcast. We were live streaming on YouTube today as well. I didn't actually check that chat or anything like that, although I assume we don't really have any viewers over there. And so
that chat comes in through the same medium here.
Oh, cool.
And you're right, 0 viewers.
I wasn't even looking at that when I actually had it open. I was like,
oh, I see.
Although I was for a little while. I like the format better. We may be setting up a Spotify soon, but for now, the podcast episode should be in full on YouTube, so you can check those out if you want to rewatch them, or if you happen to miss a podcast and you're rewatching it right now. So thank you guys all for being here. We had a 3.5 hour stream and it's 9 o'clock, so we are both tired and ready to go. And just hope to see you guys next time.
Love you guys. I'll see you later.